Welcome back to a Thursday edition of Ball Don't Lie. It's a new theme Thursday edition of Ball Don't Lie. It's your boy Hardball Harge, and we're going to get right into it. We got so much to talk about, and as my man Rob Babers loves to say, we don't have a lot of time. Our man Aaron Rodgers decided to come out of his cave. I don't know if we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter or what, but we'll talk about it. The Dallas Cowboys always pick the best player that's available, but did they get it right all the time when they did that? We also got the flex. We got high school basketball, and we have high school baseball to talk about. We got a special guest in the house, and we'll get to that, and we're going to get his thoughts on the town hall because he's got a lot to talk about. We got new addition to the Hall of Fame, New Jersey retirement. Kirk Dressendorfer is going to be with us in the Hard Knocks Life. And could Lamar Jackson sit out an entire season? We'll get into all of that and much, much more, but let's get right into it. He's the man behind the glass, and he is the man that always takes care of us and gives us all our themes for the week. He is one, Patrick Davis. What's happening, PD?
Oh, just another day in paradise, Harge.
That's what we call it, right? That's what it's all supposed to be. My man he's one of the hardest working people in this building, if not the hardest working member of the ARN family. Our man Rob Babers is out today. He had a speaking engagement that he needed to attend today. And what I did was brought y'all a very special guest. That's right. You've heard him on this airways before. He's a good friend of mine. He has been around to Ball Don't Lie a couple of times. And if you've been a fan of his work, you can follow him at horns247.com. Go to horns247.com. You can also follow him at ChipBrown247. He also has a Heisman vote, so we'll probably get into that conversation one time as well. He's the one and only Chip Brown. Chip, how you doing, C-Breeze?
What's going on?
Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie. Appreciate you stepping in for my man Rod Beasy today.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, y'all are my boys.
Yeah. You got us both into the business.
That's right.
That's for sure.
You're part of my tree.
I like that. You're like the coaching carousel, the coaching tree of one Bill Walsh. You're the coaching tree of one Tom Landry. And now we got the coaching tree of my man Chip Brown.
I got to come back in, check in on you, see how you're doing.
Make sure we're going in the right direction. I appreciate that. So, Chip, we'll get into your conversation with Chris Del Conte that you had on the flagship, but also your thoughts on the town hall. We'll do that at the top of the 4 o'clock. But this is somebody you and I have had many of conversations about. A man, Aaron Rodgers, or should I say Punxsutawney Field, that came out to let us know if we got 6 more weeks of winter. Chip, he went on this little retreat again, and this is one of the things that kind of cracks me up, is Aaron Rodgers is the only person that we always have a conversation about what he's doing off the football field, right? He's always that introspective thinker, and he's trying to let you know how smart he is. Every offseason, we do this song and dance with him as, are you going to play? Are you not going to play? What is he thinking? Is he going to just walk away from the game? Or is he going to request a trade? Is he going to sign his extension? There are so many things that we talk about with Aaron Rodgers that has nothing to do with football, but yet and still he keeps us coming back to him. So he comes back off of this 4-night retreat that he does, and I looked at the pictures of the place that he was at. Didn't look that bad, man. Didn't look like he was in a real bad spot. Looked like he was just on a vacation with family and friends, and he decides that I just really want to, chill out for a little bit. But now he's out. He comes out. What are your thoughts of my man Aaron Rodgers and where his mind always seems to go?
I want to know what he's getting from Pat McAfee to only do his show.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right?
That's definitely helped Pat McAfee along his way as well.
Like every week during the NFL season, if you want to know what Aaron Rodgers is thinking, you got to go to the Pat McAfee show to find out what he's thinking.
Right.
I think that's where he talked about going into this
Yes, it is.
darkness.
That's where
for
he said
4 straight days.
And that's when we, what's the drug that he was hallucinating with, Pastor?
Ayahuasca.
Yeah, that's where we found out that he was taking that as well on the Pat McAfee show. I mean, this is an interesting thought because that obviously that's the relationship. Tom Brady had his weekly thing in New England where he was on that show every single week. And now he was doing the most recent one on his podcast with Larry Fitzgerald and what's the writer's name? Jim Gray.
Jim Gray.
Yeah, Jim Gray, the one who asked Pete Rose the question during the World Series, and everybody wanted to beat him up during that time.
Well, even Brady on his last podcast before he retired was like, "I'll bleep when I'm bleeping ready." Like, wait a minute, this is your guy. This is your podcast.
Exactly.
You're still annoyed by Jim Gray.
So you sit here and you look at this Aaron Rodgers story, and two things always comes to mind when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. He's very aloof, but he's so articulate and very intelligent with it. But he also is always leaving other people hanging when it comes to his future. Not only his future, the organization's future. He pretty much holds them hostage to where anything he wants to do, they have to wait around for him. And it's very unfair because isn't he the one that is always critical of the wide receivers early in the season, but yet he doesn't spend any off-season time with them where all these other quarterbacks, you were telling me a few years ago about when Tom Brady took shoulder pads and a helmet on his vacation and then had all his wide receivers show up where he was, and they worked out. He never does that. Right. I've never heard of Aaron Rodgers calling his wide receiver core and saying, "Hey, guys, congratulations, you signed. Meet me in California on this date, and we'll go through all our route tree." Never.
You know where he is? He's in legacy prison. He's in legacy prison.
Very much so.
I mean, it happens when coaches get to a certain point where it's about their wins and trying to get, like right now, Belichick's, 18 wins away from Shula for the all-time wins in NFL coaching history. And you get to a point where you've won something and you've kind of got the fan base and you don't feel like you have to do every little thing that it takes to win. That's why I respect Brady so much, because Brady, right up until the time he retired, was trying to always get on the same page with everybody, doing that extra, working out with guys, new
showing
receivers,
leadership,
taking time away from whatever personal life he has left, but to get over with the team, to make sure that they were winning. Whereas Aaron Rodgers, I mean, you and I know from having John Brown on our radio shows in the past, he's the father of Equanimous St. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Well, when Equanimous was in Green Bay, he said Rodgers wouldn't give him the time of day.
Wouldn't even talk to him.
This is a 6'6" receiver who's, ended up going to Chicago and starting. So I don't, Rodgers is an interesting cat. And when he had Don Adams, Devontae
Adams,
that was good enough for him. Like, we'll figure it out.
But complain the whole time.
Yeah, I mean,
they're not getting me more weapons. They're not. I'm like, you got the number one wide receiver in the NFL.
And then it looked like he was kind of developing something with
Aaron Jones,
Watson, number 9,
Christian Watson.
Yes. And you're like, okay, all right, here we go. But it just, it reminds me of Brett Favre.
It's too much, and it's ironic that you say that about Brett Favre, because now there's rumors that everybody is waiting to figure out if he's going to go to the New York Jets.
Right.
So you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself,
who loves me more?
Right.
Who loves me more?
Where you've been at a place where they've given you everything.
Yeah,
you just signed an extension.
There's someone in that front office that he doesn't like. And
it could be possible, and that very well could be true. But there's probably more people that don't like him.
Yeah, well, he's risking that.
Right.
He's risking that because they haven't won.
Exactly. He won the one Super Bowl, and then He commented the other day and said that I'll probably win another MVP. He never mentioned a Super Bowl. He never mentioned the Super Bowl. And that, to me, tells you everything you need to know about Aaron Rodgers. And we knew this before. Remember, he fell in the draft and he was all pissed off in the back, and then he had to sit behind Brett Favre, and then he finally got his opportunity and, wins the Super Bowl, wins MVP, all this great stuff. But he still is ending up to where it's like, all I care about is me. I don't show up for the younger guys. I don't try to lead them. I don't try to show them the ropes. But you know who has been working out with those guys? Davis Love. I mean, he's out there throwing the football with them and spending those time running those routes, which is great for him.
Jordan Love?
Jordan Love, Davis Love. I'm thinking of the golfer. As soon as I said it, I was like, that's the golfer, Davis Love. But Jordan Love is out there forging that relationship, and everybody says he's gotten better. And he's gotten better. He's gotten better each year. He's put the time in. That is why I sit there and I say, come on, man. Why is it that we all have to sit and wait on you, pins and needles?
You know what? Maybe he needs a change of scenery. Maybe he needs to go somewhere where he doesn't have everyone sort of at his beck and call, where he's got to hustle and develop relationships in that locker room and prove himself.
Correct.
Again. I mean, you got that young nucleus in New York. You got, Garrett Wilson.
Right.
You got
Breece Hall, who's coming back from that injury. Yes.
But we
Corey
know
Davis.
if anybody pushed him at this point, he's going to retire. Like, he'll just walk away.
Right. He
So
has
there
that in
is
him.
no, you've gotten to the point with Aaron Rodgers because, and there's always a phrase I always use with a lot of things in life is don't feed the cats. It's like you can't, if someone is always going to come to you for something and you enable it, they're always going to come back for it.
Yeah.
And Green Bay enabled Aaron Rodgers for years and years to act like this because they were like, well, he's winning. He's getting MVPs. He's getting us to the playoffs. So we're going to have to let him act like this because he's, you can't find another quarterback like this. So we'll let him do it. And then he just kept pushing the boundaries. And then the cat starts pooping on the bed. And you're like, well, we've let the cat in. It's like we can't let him out. He'll die out there. So then the cat starts pooping. And then he bites your other cat. And you're like, oh, man, he bit our other cat. He's pooping on the bed. Maybe we should get rid of him. You can't give that cat to another family.
Yeah.
Or he's going to keep pooping on the bed.
Yeah, because
Well,
he's already
Aaron
got
Rodgers
that
got it. And so there's one thing. You either put him out to pasture or you treat him that way. So any team that's looking at him now, where the Jets can look at him because they've had a hell of a time trying to find someone to play quarterback for him.
Yep.
You can, but you need to go into it going, hey, you need to walk in and going, hey, this is kind of like Russell Wilson situation. We have the team and we have a quarterback, and we need to be the conduit in between the two. We cannot expect him to be a different guy because we know what he is. He has never shown us that he has any intention to be anything else. So if we need a guy and go, here's the play, Aaron, run out there in the field and do it. Yeah, I don't even know. You don't need that's 4. Don't learn his name. He's 4.
Yeah.
Then awesome. Go after that guy. But if that's not what you want, we know what he is. He's not changing.
Yep.
He goes on Pat McAfee's show because he knows Pat McAfee is the one who he can go, I'm going in a darkness retreat, and they go, oh, what's that? And not, what? Dude, really?
Exactly.
And he knows. So he's like, I don't want to
Again?
go get questioned. I mean, there's a guy who continually says that he hates everything, wants to be serious, and then dressed up as Nick Cage from Con Air in the first day. Like, you don't get to be both guys, Aaron. You have set your path. You are this guy now.
Right.
We all know who you are, but you can't be cool guy on day one of school.
I like that.
I
Nick
say
Cage.
throw him into New York,
I think so too.
I want to see what he's got left in terms of trying to bridge a gap with players and winning, instead of just being the diva in Green Bay.
Right. But he, you see there at the end, he's like, he walks off with Randall Cobb and they have their moment. And it's like, I just want to keep my jersey because this one might be special. Like, come on, man. What are we doing, Aaron? Like, it just gets to the point now where it's frustrating because everybody wants to talk about winning and losing, right? But everybody wants to criticize. I'm going to use Dak because everybody knows I'm a Dak fan. You know that. And I sit here and I go, the problem with Dak is everybody saying he's not winning games, right? He doesn't win in the playoff games. Well, since the Super Bowl, neither has Aaron. Aaron's never gotten back to that point to where every single year he's always talking to everybody to relax, right? Then he works his way back up and they slide in, but he doesn't win the first round. He doesn't win the second round. And he's getting an MVP, so it's okay. But the criticism should always be, yeah, but you can't because he got a Super Bowl. And he still has that little area of success where everybody's like, that's what he's going to rest on. He got that Super Bowl. So we shouldn't bother him. To your point, Patrick, we're letting him poop on the bed and just saying, it's just who he is. We can make it around him because he's going to give us that hope and that chance. Well, it doesn't seem to be the same anymore. It's like he doesn't care. That's why he always can tell us, just wait until we get to the end. The way it's set up for us right now is we're going to be here, here, and here, and we're going to be playing for a chance to get into the playoffs. And if we get in there,
you better watch out because my Lions are coming for him.
Exactly. Your Lions have arrived.
They went into Green Bay and
Micah said it's different.
and beat them up.
Oh, yeah, Micah did say that. But, yeah, you look at it and you say, okay, now Detroit is trying to make this move, and is that something that he's looking at as well and saying, maybe things have changed a little bit, and maybe I do need to go try something else because this isn't working for me anymore. Okay, that's fine too, but let us know who you are, Aaron. I mean, we know who you are, but quit having these people wait around for you and holding your organization hostage the entire time, because that's what we're seeing the entire time now. It's like, we'll see what happens next year. Well, I don't know. They may want to move on from me. Oh, woe is me. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all, and I think this is something that he's created for himself, and that's what people are looking at. Another thing that people are looking at is the FanDuel has released early odds on and point spreads for the Texas football, and it has Alabama and Oklahoma odds that are there. Right now, going into week 2, Texas will be at Alabama September the 9th, and Alabama is an 8-point favorite. And then the Red River Shootout, October the 7th, Texas is a 4-point favorite in this game. Chip, what do you think when you see these early season lines for Texas to be an 8-point dog on the road with as much as they have returning on that football team? I think that's too high.
Well, that's what Texas fans are hoping and
that's what Vegas is hoping.
And thinking. I mean, this is a big year for Texas football. It just is.
Right.
Because
it's a huge year.
It's the last year in the Big 12 before they go to the SEC. The momentum of the recruiting that's happened, they're going to be picked to win the Big 12. And they need to win the Big 12. They sure as hell need to be in that Big 12 title game.
100%.
Because they should have been in that last year.
Correct.
And the coaches kind of got in the way of that. Should have kept running the football against Oklahoma State. You'd have won that game. You'd have been in the Big 12 title game.
Right.
If you win that game. Because you went on the road and beat K-State in the best game you played all year.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, Bijan Robinson ran it 32 times for 209 yards in that game. And that's the biggest question mark about the Longhorns going into this year. How do they replace that running production? Who's the guy? Is it Jonathan Brooks? Is it C.J. Baxter? Is it, Keelan Robinson or Jaden Blue? But, I mean, my personal feeling is it's going to be Jonathan Brooks and C.J. Baxter. That's going to be your 1-2 punch.
I don't think Keelan Robinson, and this is just my opinion, I don't think he's that type of back. I think the way that they've been using him is the way he deserves to be used. I just think you need to get it to him more in those types of plays. But I don't see him as an eye back. I don't see him somebody that you can just pound the football with.
You need a closer.
You need somebody that's going to get the ball and at the end of games, finish the game for you.
Well, and then when you have a closer who's a guy who's proven to you that he can finish a game, you need to keep using him in that role.
Correct.
Because, I mean, how often do you get a back like that who punishes defense to where they don't want anymore in the fourth quarter? Texas has had him, Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams, Cedric Benson, and you had another one in Bijan Robinson, and you got another one now in C.J. Baxter.
Right. And I'm a big fan of Jonathan
Brooks.
Yeah.
And let's go. Yep. I mean, that was sort of the $1 million question, and now, what I'm hearing behind the scenes is, okay, we got all these receivers now. We're loaded at receiver. Now the offense is going to operate the way Sarkisian likes it to operate. He needs more than one receiver to be able to take the top off the defense. The more, the better. When he was at Bama, he had
Multiple
Jerry
players.
Jeudy and Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle and Henry Ruggs, 4 guys who can take the top off the defense, and they set records. And Devontae Smith won the Heisman. Okay, well, now you got all these, you got Xavier Worthy and Isaiah Nayer and A.D. Mitchell and Jonte Cook and Brendan Thompson. You got speed guys all over the place, DeAndre Moore. And this now, apparently, is going to be the year that the offense looks the way Sarkisian has wanted it to look since he got here. And that eliminates your excuses.
Right.
And last year, it was the offense that held Texas back. The defense came through. I mean, it was up and down. I mean, in that Oklahoma State game, it was up and down. But they gave you a knockout third quarter.
Yep.
And came up with a big interception right before halftime, Ryan Watts.
Big time player.
And so now, okay, the excuses go away. The offense needs to wreak havoc. You got a quarterback who should be taking the next step in his progression.
Mm-hmm.
All these receivers, the first team all Big 12 tight end. You got your offensive line back. It's time.
Yeah.
It's time.
It's way past that time.
It's
and
time.
when you look at what going back to that line of -8, Alabama's replacing a lot as well, especially defensively. And then you look at what Texas was able to do here, playing with the backup quarterback in Hudson Card and keeping the game that close. And you're a call away and a sack away from defeating that team on your home field. I see 8 point. I can see 5.5. I can see a 6, but an 8-point spread this far out with a bunch of unknowns
what we
for
saw
Oklahoma.
from
Alabama.
What we saw from Jalen Milroe last year was not great.
It was up and down.
It was up and down.
Yeah.
He did a lot with his legs.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get through his progressions. He would take off running. He's a big, strong kid. He looks good running the football. But
do you remember this was the guy that I told you I wanted to stay at Texas before he flipped to Alabama?
Oh, yeah.
We were like, I was telling you, I was like, this dude's got to come here.
Oh, yeah.
He's got to come here. But
and now he's going to be the one.
Yep.
We think. Who knows? But you got
new
Bill
OC,
O'Brien.
new
Bill
OC,
O'Brien,
new
right.
DC, new OC, new DC over there.
Yep.
So you don't know. I mean, you figure if they're going to put Milroe, they'll build the offense a bit more around his skill set, because that was one of the problems. Is he came in and they were trying to have him do what Bryce Young did,
And
which
you can't do that.
I mean, we saw in that Texas game. Without Bryce Young doing what he can do, Texas wins that game because
for sure.
there was too many plays that were broken
Houdini.
down, and he made second efforts to get plays. So, we don't even know. This Alabama team could look very different offensively next season. And until we see at least one game, and I don't know who their week 1 opponent is. I'm sure it's a nobody, but until we see a little bit of it, it's hard to go, oh, no, they're going to be the dominant powerhouse that they weren't even this year.
Right.
With a Bryce Young.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That 8-point line is just begging Texas fans to pour money in on it.
Yeah.
Right now.
That's exactly why I think the line is looking like that.
They'll let the Texas fans bet
dictate.
it down
Yes.
to 7.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% because that was something that I was like, okay, they know that Texas fans drink the Kool-Aid right away. And so they were like, oh, we'll get all this money to pour in, especially. That's why FanDuel put it out. I haven't seen it anywhere else. I just saw it on FanDuel. I haven't seen any other lines anywhere else. So when you start looking at it and you're saying, they know exactly because they want the market to balance itself out so they don't get the hit.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to win their money one way or another. They're still building buildings out there because they know their fan bases and who's going to jump at it and who's not. Because if I were to have to put money on it, I would have jumped all over that as well immediately. Because that number is so big.
Homer Harge.
Hey, you know what it is. You know
Come
what
on.
it is. Hey, we'll continue this conversation, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys. That's right. My man Chip Brown used to cover the Dallas Cowboys, and he knows about their draft history, so we will get into that. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Mike Harge here, and I want to talk to you about the League Kitchen and Tavern. The League has 4 Austin area located restaurants right here in Avery Ranch, Bee Cave, Dripping Springs, which is Belterra, and Lakeway. Whether you want lunch or dinner, dine in or pick up, the League Kitchen has something just for you. This week, I want to take you to a trip down to Big Easy. That's right. How about trying out their Creole Cobb salad or the stuffed pork chop? Why not try the potato croquettes? And if you're really hungry, the new feature sandwich is the shrimp po' boy. And if you can make that trip out to the Lakeway location on Sunday, they have Lonnie's famous fried chicken. Legend have it that Lonnie's famous fried chicken is some of the best chicken around. The menu includes a family bucket that's enough to feed 8. You get 4-piece plate, wings, and of course, some waffle fries. Treat yourself, treat some friends, or better yet, take some family out there. No matter which way you go, you might see me at the League. You can order online at theleaguekitchen.com. That's leaguekitchen.com. Welcome back to a new Theme Thursday edition of Ball Don't Lie. It's your boy Hardball Harge. Got my man Chip Brown sitting in for Rob Babers, who had a prior engagement that he needed to take care of. And, of course, my man Patrick Davis behind the glass. And so I'm trying to figure out the new theme. Who is this, Patrick?
This is the Birds.
The Birds. Old school, baby.
Is this Dallas Town? Is that what that said?
It did say Dallastown.
Okay. All right. I don't know the theme just yet, but give me a couple more chances. I'll try to figure that out.
This wasn't on the Harge record player.
This was
in
not,
Killeen?
No, this was not what my mom was spinning while we were cleaning the house. Not at all.
Okay, all
I
right.
promise you that. Since you did say Dallas Town, and that's what we were going to talk about, we're going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. Chip Brown was a former beat writer for the Dallas Cowboys, and you were there with what you called the Lenny and Squiggy years.
Dave Campo, baby.
Of following the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll get into one of my favorite stories that you share. As a matter of fact, I want you to share it now. You wrote an article about Jerry Jones and I guess his appearance one time, and Jerry had to give you a conversation a little bit.
I was doing a salary cap story, and I needed to talk to Jerry. And Rich Dalrymple was the PR guy for the Cowboys at the time, no longer. And he's like, we're having our golf tournament. He's got Mac McClarty out here. Mac McClarty was like Bill Clinton's chief of staff, Arkansas guy.
Yep.
And he's like, I might be able to get you 5 minutes. And I get out there, and Jerry looks totally different. And I called our photographer. I was with the Dallas Morning News at the time. I was like, you got to get out here. You got to get a picture of Jerry. He looks totally different. I don't know what's going on. And sure enough, when I get in to talk to him, I'm like, Jerry, how much weight have you lost? He's like, 51 pounds. Not eating at night, smaller plates, you know. And I'm like, wow. I mean, sometimes when you lose that much weight, you know, you might have a little nip tuck to kind of collect the baggy skin. And he's like, well, I'd never say, but I reserve the right. And that was it. My lead was Jerry Jones has lost it, 51 pounds. You know, whether he's had a little nip tuck, he's not saying. And I thought it would be just a note in the sports section. It ran on the front page of the Dallas Morning News, above the fold. And I show up to training camp the next day, and Rich Dalrymple's like, you asked for the salary cap story, and this is how you do me? You and I'm so mad. I'm like, is Jerry mad? He's like, I don't know, but I can't imagine. You said you're doing a salary cap story, and this is how you treat me? I'm so bleep, bleep, bleep. And we go into the press conference, and Jerry's giving his State of the Union, and he keeps looking at me. And I'm like, oh, my God, he's going to kill me. Is there a red dot on my forehead? And then he finishes the press conference, and he walks up to me, and I'm like, oh, my God, he's going to strangle me right here in front of everybody. And he's like, Chip, I just want to thank you for your sensitivity. Thank you. And he walked away. And I saw Stephen Jones as I was leaving. I go, is Jerry mad? He's like, no, he's not mad. He's like, you did him a favor. You wrote about it. Now no one's ever going to ask him about it again. It's over. Like,
nice.
If, you know, and I'm like, okay, all right, good. We're good.
Yeah.
So I told Rich Dalrymple that, and he's like, ah.
So did you and Rich y'all squashing and became friends
I
again?
mean, Rich wasn't looking out for anybody but Rich.
That's exactly right. Well, somebody else that is looking out for the Dallas Cowboys is their draft staff. As you sit here and you start looking at the Dallas Cowboys and looking at the history of the Dallas Cowboys, their motto is, who's ever at the top of the board is who we're going to stay with, right? And whatever, we're going to get the best player available. But at times, the best player that we think is available is not what they think is available because they have their own board. Just like last year when I lost my mind when they took Tyler Smith. It was the wrong Tyler for me, but the guy ended up playing great. I have a newfound respect. Chip, you know a lot about that because I used to lose my mind with Leighton Vander Esch.
Oh, yeah.
When the Cowboys took Wolfman Leighton Vander Esch, I was not happy about
You were
it.
furious.
But he ended up.
And then you were wearing his jersey practically. We went to a Cowboys Saints game, and Hard just like, Leighton, can I get a picture?
Hey, come on, Leighton. Let me get that.
It was coming through the
Vander Esch.
Bud Light or whatever, that tunnel, Miller Light tunnel, and Hard's like, hey, try to get a picture, selfie with him. I'm
Trying
like,
to make sure I was like, hey, man, I got to eat a little crow here. I'm not afraid to admit when I was wrong. And I was wrong about Leighton Vander Esch.
well, how you feeling about Tyler Smith?
I loved him.
Okay.
At first, I didn't. That was not the Tyler. I was looking for the offensive line. I mean, the center from Iowa, because them Iowa guys, they always seem to work out. They understand line play. My man had a bunch of penalties when he was coming out of Tulsa.
A lot of holding.
And the Cowboys were the most penalized team in the NFL. So now you're adding gasoline to the fire. So I was not happy about it, but he ended up proving me wrong. But throughout the years, if you start looking at some of the draft picks that the Dallas Cowboys did take, you would say, all right, let's see. Cowboys at 9th pick in 2011, they drafted Tyron Smith, which turned out to be one of the best players in the Cowboys' history at the left tackle, and he's gone through a bunch of injuries, but he's played well throughout his career. In 2012, you would look at, all right, the Cowboys had the 6th pick in the draft, and you thought Maurice Claiborne was going to be the best defensive back the Cowboys could get. He ended up not playing well at all. So that is another position that you sit there and say, okay, who was the best available guy? It couldn't have been him. Then you look at the 31st pick in 2013. You went and got Travis Frederick. Beautiful pick. He's been outstanding for the Cowboys until he had to deal with that injury. You start looking at it. You could have had Kenny Vaccaro at one point. You could have had – he ended up going 15th to New Orleans. You had Jonathan Cooper at the 18th pick. Cowboys had traded back to get that pick. So then you start looking again and say 2014. They went and got Zach Martin. Zach Martin turned out to be one of the best players out there. But when you drafted Martin in 2014, you weren't thinking about some of the other players that were on the same board with them. Anthony Barr, Aaron Donald, Ryan Shazier, and, of course, Zach Martin. It ended up working out for all of those players involved, and you probably wouldn't have went wrong anywhere. But if you could have had Aaron Donald in the fold for a long time, that's a game changer.
They got DeMarcus Lawrence in the 2nd round that year.
Exactly. So that was a different time. So you start looking around and you say, okay, what could have been a better pick? In 2015, the Cowboys picked Byron Jones. Byron Jones was a person that if you would have looked at it from the very beginning, wasn't he the cornerback from Connecticut?
Tall, fast.
Yeah. And he ended up walking, but they may get him back, by the way. There's a possibility of the Cowboys bringing him back in because he's going to be a cap casualty for the Miami Dolphins. So that'll be something to pay attention to. Then in 2016, the 4th overall pick, you picked up Zeke. Zeke was probably the best player on the board. In his first couple years, he was all of that. Now at the back end of this contract, and you and I were doing radio together when I said, I can't believe he jumped the line. He jumped the line and messed up the entire salary cap for everybody that was involved. And now that's why people are looking at it and saying, oh, this was a bad signing for them. And he may work it out and they might have to defer something and change some money in the bonuses. But still, that was the right pick at that time, I thought. Yeah. And he's had a great career for him. This is where it got bad, 2017.
Now, I will say it was the right pick at the time, but they could have drafted Derrick Henry in the 2nd round and picked someone else there. Just in retrospect, Field did not think Derrick Henry was going to be Derrick Henry, but he was available as their 2nd round pick.
Thanks, Patrick.
And they took Jalen Smith.
They took Jalen Smith. So they could have had them there and then picked somebody else in the 1st round.
Well, I'm glad they didn't pick Jalen Smith in the 1st round.
Like they could have picked up Jalen Ramsey there or somebody else instead of Zeke.
And that's what everybody was going for. Everybody thought that the Cowboys were going to pick Jalen Ramsey at that position. The next year, this is where everybody lost their mind when they took Taco Charlton. Ended up being,
I could have told him that.
Yeah, you were being a Michigan fan, Michigan man. You were sitting there saying that is the worst pick.
Yeah, he's not twitchy.
Yeah, he wasn't quick enough coming off the ball. That's right. And then here's my pick, 2018, Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, he's done well for me. That was the other part of it. I'm okay with it. 2019, they didn't have a pick. 2020, CeeDee Lamb. Do you think he was the third receiver off the board? And I think the reason why he ended up getting picked at that time was because all the wide receivers were coming off the board. So you kind of didn't want to miss out on that round of wide receivers because they were all being taken so high. They were hoping that a Justin Jefferson would have been able to fall to them, but it ended up not happening. Micah Parsons in 2021.
And you got Trayvon Diggs in the second round.
And you got
that year.
Trayvon in the second. Trayvon Diggs. Micah Parsons at number 12, steal of the draft.
Oh.
That was a steal. He could have, other teams could have come up and gotten him, or he could have been picked before that because I originally thought they were going to take one of the cornerbacks at that time, either J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain. I was a big fan of Patrick Surtain. He ended up going to the Denver Broncos. Micah Parsons ended up being the pick. So I think everybody's good with that one. And then last year,
you know what
Tyler
made Micah
Smith.
Parsons even better? Dan Quinn as his defensive coordinator.
That's the best part about it all. He's changed the entire defense of the Dallas Cowboys. Let's not forget how terrible they were before he got there. And then he got him in the middle of the pack, and then he got him at the top of the pack. That's why everybody's excited that he's coming back as opposed to him taking another job. Cowboy fans are rejoicing
See
that
the
he's
coach
still
in
there.
waiting?
I think that's what Jerry told him. That's why he got rid of
if that
everybody
defense
else.
stays good and Mike McCarthy doesn't improve the offense this year when he's calling plays, then I think that's the easiest choice to hire.
No doubt about it. You are 100% correct with that, and that's how I felt about it. And we've talked about this through this time. I ended up getting Kellen Moore off the radar. I wanted him gone. It's just their relationship got stale, and Rod always brings this up. They were peers and quarterback roommates in the quarterback room. Then he became his quarterback's coach, and then he became his offensive coordinator. It's the most unique situation you could ever be a part of, and I think they plateaued at their relationship because Kellen is good early. He's not good late in the play calling part of it. And maybe it's Dak audibling out of it. We've heard that conversation before. We've seen it happen in other places. But you still want to sit here and go, hold up, man, we got to make sure that this is getting better and not the same because they started staying at the same level. Yes, the offense was great and they were putting up big numbers, but when it got to the playoffs where all the teams are really good, they never evolved. So that was one of the biggest disappointments, and I'm glad that they made the switch. And Mike McCarthy, this is it, bro. This is your one shot. You talking about it. You've been doing great. Cowboys made the playoffs, back-to-back 12-win seasons. That's outstanding, but now it's for you to get over that plateau, and it is also for Dak Prescott to get to the NFC Championship game.
I want to see the Cowboys drafting a quarterback every year.
And we've been talking about that, and that's something that they
drives
haven't
me crazy.
done.
I've
Yes.
said they've drafted tight ends the way they should have been drafting quarterbacks. Every year they take a tight end when they should be
100%.
taking a quarterback and develop your next guy.
No doubt.
That way you're not ever being held hostage. You know, you take a guy like CeeDee Lamb so you don't have to pay Amari Cooper all that money and
No
then
doubt.
just throw him away. You know, you keep drafting the next.
Yes.
The next.
You have to. You have
And
to
that's
keep
what drives me
drafting.
crazy.
And that's what has been driving all of the Cowboy fans crazy is the fact that they're Jerry. I don't want him having any threats behind him. It's
He
like
did,
why?
He did it with Romo too, to the point where Romo's a 30-plus quarterback with back issues, and he's getting a $90 million contract with $50 million guaranteed.
Exactly.
And you're like, this is the worst contract in the history of football. And it's all because Jera doesn't want competition for his quarterback.
Which is utterly ridiculous when you think about it.
And I swear it goes back to the Aikman
Walsh.
thing.
Yep.
That,
Supplemental
it
pick.
got tense, and Troy didn't like, and Jared was like, I don't want to go through that again.
Well,
Don't want that.
He needs to definitely do it. And maybe that's why they're having so many conversations about these upcoming quarterbacks in this draft. This is the most I've ever heard the Cowboys talk about it. But after what we just talked about, by picking what's best on your board, the best available player, if a quarterback is there at that number, do you take that chance? They won't do it in the first round, and they
No.
shouldn't do it in the first
Right,
round.
'cause I
They
don't-
need to go get a secondary player. They need to go get a linebacker, another linebacker, and possibly a corner. That's what they need to go do. And there's plenty of guys out there, but you know what the Cowboys will do? They'll get an offensive or defensive lineman. That's just the way they roll. And then they'll pick a tight end in the second round. When we get back, we'll be doing the flex. We got some high school basketball and high school baseball. I got a chance to go watch some games earlier today, and we'll talk about it and all that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Is this Howard the Duck? I mean, it's like
Not a movie.
not a movie.
That's Prince, baby.
I'm trying to think of what this is.
This is off the Controversy album. Ronnie Talked to Russia. It's a song about Ronald Reagan talking to
See, you're
Russia.
getting the help from Chip right now.
I know he's giving me all the help. Is it? It's not. It can't be a political thing, could it be?
Yeah, oh yeah, that Controversy album.
Well, I mean,
was
this
all
the song
political.
is.
I'm talking about what's happening.
I mean, kind of, but not. I mean,
Okay, we'll get into it, but maybe by 4 o'clock I'll know exactly what it is.
The best song on this album, though, is called "Private Joy." Just Google it, Spotify, whatever. "Private Joy."
Private
Prince
Joy, okay.
From the Controversy album. It's the best song on that album.
Okay. My man Chip, by the way, I actually told the story yesterday about how we were in Atlanta and I'm flipping through the TV and the Prince documentary's on, and you go, man, don't be calling me right now. Herb Brooks is having his speech because you was watching The Miracle on Ice, and yesterday was the anniversary of it, and that's why I brought it up. I said Chip is the biggest Prince nut that I know, but he wouldn't even turn it to watch the Prince documentary because he was right in the middle of Herb Brooks'
Herb
speech.
Brooks, baby.
Kurt Russell was
Russell.
giving his speech.
That's my other piece of advice for today. Find Prince Private Joy, and if you have not seen Miracle,
Make sure you
run,
go check it
don't walk.
All right, Patrick, I'm gonna get this. He's giving me some clues. I'm gonna keep working on that. But right now is where we talk about Flex. Make sure you go to flexatx.com. That's flexatx.com. And right now they have up all the information for the basketball playoffs as we continue to head into these other rounds. San Marcos will be playing Westlake at Bowie tomorrow night, 7:30. San Marcos 35-3. Westlake is 31-4. Buda Johnson will take on New Braunfels tomorrow night as well. Round Rock will be playing San Antonio Reagan. Stony Point will be playing Cipolo Steel. And Harker Heights will be taking on Horn. You know, Harker Heights is, in case y'all didn't know, is in the 254. Just want to make sure that y'all know that.
254.
Rouse will be taking on Brackenridge in the 5A by district. Bernie Champion will be taking on Harlandale. We keep going down. Glenn Loss, LBJ, and Eastview will continue to play. Eastview will take on A&M Consolidated. Hendrickson versus my alma mater. Ellison will be playing in Liberty Hill, 7:30.
Fly Eagles fly.
That's right, baby. Fly Eagles fly. And Connolly will be taking on Belton this Friday as well. Also, the Round Rock Raising Cane's Classic is going on right now. Georgetown will play Corpus Christi Carroll and Heath today. Round Rock will play Arlington and Friendship. McNeil will play Lubbock, Monterey, and San Angelo. Cedar Ridge will play Amarillo and Midway. Cedar Park will play Lubbock, Cooper, and the Woodlands. And Stony Point will play Allen. All started today. Go out to all the ballparks. If there's a high school field near you, make sure you stop by. I know Westlake has started today as well. They're the number 2 ranked team in the nation. I mean, in the state this year in 6A. So Westlake has continued to do it in all facets of athletics over there. And if you're not following them, make sure you follow them now. That's why you come to Flex ATX and make sure you follow all these kids. FlexATX.com. When we come back, I want to talk to my man Chip Brown. I want to get his thoughts on the town hall meeting and his conversation, his one-on-one with Chris Del Conte. And then he wrote an article this morning in his Morning Brew that I want him to touch on. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to New Theme Thursday edition of Ball Don't Lie, where your boy Harbaugh is lost for words right now because I don't know what the theme is. So, Patrick, do you mind?
You may give you a hint what the name of this song is?
Yeah.
The name of the song is Funky President. People, it's bad.
President's Day.
It's President's Day on Monday.
Yes, okay.
There's songs about presidents or being the president, things of that
and
nature.
controversies and conspiracies.
It was it was Ronnie Talked to Russia about Ronald Reagan.
Yep.
The first song was about JFK. He was a friend of mine. It was about JFK.
Okay.
So all these have been about presidents.
I got you.
So someone will be about being the president, but
because I was looking forward, not
backwards. But I was like, there's some weird songs about presidents I can play.
Okay. Well, you hear my man Patrick Davis over there. You can follow him on Twitter at It's Patrick Davis. My man Rod Babers is out, but you can still hit him up at Rod Babers. And, of course, I am Hardball Harge. You can follow me at Hardball Harge. And sitting in today, you can follow him, my man Chip Brown, at Chip Brown 247. Chip, thank you for sitting in, by the way, and it's always good chopping it up with you.
Oh, yeah,
as
man.
always. But I wanted to get to a story that you had written this past week and an article that you had written and a conversation that you had with Chris Del Conte, the athletic director at the University of Texas. And it was very intriguing to me. Number one, the dude just tells you everything that's going on, right? He's not going to sugarcoat it. He's going to keep things headed in the right direction, and he's going to give you some of the thoughts that he's allowed to give you. Obviously, things change, and he's got to kind of keep some things close to his vest. Through all the things that were being talked about and things that he was addressing, the one thing that stood out to me, and I know people are going to ask you about the LED lights, the new practice facility, going from turf to grass and all that. And that's great, and I'll give you the floor for that. But the biggest thing that stood out to me was the way that they were going to pay back the money. I thought that was the most interesting part to me, where they were not going to take fees from the conference this year and possibly part of the conference next year or their time in the SEC, where they're going to be able to pay it all back. I thought that part was the most intriguing part to me.
Yeah, they're going to take nothing from the Big 12 for
Right.
the 23-24 school year. And the revenue distribution this past year was $42.6 million. So let's say the revenue stays flat. They take nothing.
That's 42.
That's 42.6.
Yep.
Oklahoma's going to take nothing. That's 42.6. But they'd still have $7 million. And,
Right.
You know,
In debt.
$7.4 million left to
Mhm.
pay on their $50 million. They would, because it's ESPN, they would take less again in their first year in the SEC. Only $7 million less.
Right.
And
Would still be a pretty
ESPN
penny.
would pass that on to the Big 12. So but, you know, the revenue's supposed to jump once Texas and Oklahoma are in the SEC to between 60 and 75 million per year. So Texas will make that money back in no
Quickly.
time. And they have
Quickly.
the reserves to
Right.
endure with taking nothing
Is
in
there- do you-
23-24.
Do you think part of that is because of the success that Texas has had producing revenue anyway over the last few years? They've created that reserve, as you just said, to where it's like, okay, we got a big enough cushion right now. We can go ahead.
Well,
and
in that
defer a
town
little bit.
hall, Del Conte said our revenues were $225 million. They spent $216 million. Now they give the university a lot.
Right.
Like they pay rent to the university. They pay the electric bill for all the buildings, you know, that they use.
Right.
It's a unique relationship where Texas athletics contributes, you know, over $10 million a year to the Central University, just point blank, like
Yeah.
it's part of their billing. And so, you know, they have reserves,
Mm-hmm.
and they have reserves, usually around $50 million. So even with the COVID year, and that's where Del Conte deserves a ton of credit, because he's not only overseeing the largest college athletics facility renovation and addition, $750 million over the last 5 years, and it's touched every single sport at
Right.
Texas. The south end of DKR, the new Moody Center, the $60 million practice basketball facility, you know, the baseball indoor, the softball Every sport has
Right.
gotten some, and that's Eddie Reese got his outdoor pool.
He finally got it.
Finally.
It came through.
Promised from Darryl Royal in 1978 when Darryl hired him, when Darryl was the athletic director.
Right.
And that turned out to be fortuitous timing because now you've got NIL.
Yes.
And Del Conte last night was not at the Journey concert at the Moody Center. He was.
That is shocking to me that he wasn't.
I
there.
know, but it was because he was at a Texas One Fund fundraiser,
Oh, got it.
and now he's having a fundraise for NIL in addition to fundraising for the Longhorn Foundation. And fortunately, he's gotten most of his facility stuff done and paid
Right.
for. You know, he has to go raise money. Obviously, you've got this indoor football practice facility you just mentioned. That's going to be about $70 million. Okay, he's got to go raise that money. And when he raises a certain amount, the regents say, okay, you can break ground.
Right.
And so, you know, he's got to go raise that money and get people to give to NIL. The big push that they're trying to do for NIL is get people to just, you know, like St. Jude's pledge $19
Right.
a month. They want Texas fans to pledge $50 a month, $25 a month, $100 a month, whatever they can afford, and then it just goes on auto draft. And
Right. You don't even have to think about it. Yeah.
and they
it's
don't have to
already
call
done.
you anymore.
Right. Right.
You know, so just what do you got? $27, $19, St. Jude style,
Right.
whatever you want. Let's do it. And if they get enough, because they have the largest body of living alumni,
Yes.
you figure you got 600,000 Longhorns out there who've graduated, then maybe they could spare $10.
Right.
Oh, man. If each one did $10 a month,
Oh, it would be great.
that NIL fund would be solvent.
Well, I had talked to some people, and I know you've talked to a lot of people as well, and they were saying in the very beginning of the NIL situation, people were thinking that the donations or whatever was going to the Longhorn Foundation. Well, it wasn't. It's totally different.
Right, totally
fund.
different.
It's something totally different from there. And people that were thinking that they were doing it to the Longhorn Foundation, they thought that was going to, and it was like, no, that's not how it's written up. And now they had to change everything and the approach on how it was being presented. With that being said, you talked a little bit about it, but there were some other things that were brought up throughout the town hall that some of the other people were wondering about, and one of them is the new lighting. I was just at Globe Life, and I saw when a player hit a home run, they had the lights flickering and all this other stuff. Is that something that they're looking at for the LED lighting for maybe a touchdown or home run or just like that?
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
they'll be able to do because right now the lights that are in DKR are from like 1916. I
Right.
mean, like it takes 15 minutes for those lights to come on. So if there was a lightning bolt that knocked them out or, tripped a
yeah.
breaker, with these LED lights, you can, with one flick, you can
Yes.
turn all the lights off
Yes.
in the stadium, flick the light back on, and they're all back on.
Yeah, that's what Lindsay sells. Lindsay sells a lot
Okay.
of those, so we know.
So
we
it's
got
a
them in our house.
total game changer.
Yeah, they don't
And-
flicker though.
Well, yeah. So you'll have all that ability to mess with the atmosphere. Kind of, I mean, they have LED lighting in the Moody Center.
Right. You can
and
see it. Yeah, you see the
and
way it happens.
They change it up and different songs and whatever.
Right.
And they'll be able to do that. And obviously, people have been paying attention to what's going on in the SEC. Alabama has LED lighting. It's
Right.
it just makes it a party atmosphere, raucous atmosphere when everything's bouncing and jumping and so I think that's going to be a notable thing. They're not going to get the new video board in this year,
Right.
but they will have a whole new video board when they go into the SEC.
Yeah, and that's a major part of the move as well. You want to be buttoned up, ready to go. So when you do make that transition, there's no hiccups. I mean, you're still going to be going through some of the buildings and going. You're going to see a lot of cranes around the university. That's just the way it's been going. But you want to be heading into the right direction. I don't know if this was brought up at the town hall because we were on air when it was going on, but did they ever talk about the scoreboard at the baseball field? Because, as you know, they have the right field wall, and everybody's still waiting for that because they have this big drape on it because it's not working yet. Is that something that
It's
was brought
supposed
up?
to be like ready to go soon, I think.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that they were
right
trying
field?
to the right field. It's just got a it's got a tarp, not a tarp. I don't want to call it a tarp because it's way better looking
Like
than a tarp.
Like a drape.
They got
over
a
it.
drape over it that talks about the Texas Longhorns, their history, and all that other stuff. But that is a scoreboard. But the light bulbs aren't working or something like that.
When I was there the other day, I was like, I didn't see a tarp, but I did see a thing that had.
That's what it is.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
that's what it is in right center field. So
he
I'm
said
wondering
that
if
the shipment since COVID has pushed everything back.
Okay.
And that they got snake bit by it too.
right,
Like Daktronics, who's a big video board maker,
right.
their parts are
Oh, there's way
It's
so
just-
far behind.
yeah. So that should be coming soon.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's why, when you start looking at this and he given basically his State of the Union about everything where everybody can ask all these questions, I thought it was very enlightening from some of the stuff that you had written and other sites had written. But what was something else that stood out to you that you think that the people would really want to know about?
Well, I think the Rodney Terry conversation.
Yes.
The consistently across the board, the answer is we'll address this at the end of the season,
Yeah.
like after March Madness. So that's the consistent line, because everyone's like, man, if he wins the Big 12 regular season championship, Texas has never won that.
Right.
Don't you just give it to Rodney Terry at that point? They're gonna
got the bump. He got the bump in the pay
bump.
raise.
He got
Yeah.
the bump, and
Yeah.
and it's deserved.
No doubt. No doubt.
Hopefully the other assistants got a little something
They got a
too,
little
because
something.
they've been. I mean, it's one of the best stories in college basketball, if not the best, in how these players, how Rodney Terry and that coaching staff
Yeah.
responded to Chris Beard being dismissed,
Right.
and have taken it on their shoulders and said, "We're going to do this. We're going to do this." No one believes it, but we're going to do this. And now here they are, 3 games from the end of the regular season, and they're tied with Kansas for a chance to win a Big 12 regular season championship. They got the tougher road,
Right, for sure.
because they got to go to Baylor Saturday. They got to go to TCU next week.
And then finish
and then
up here.
play Kansas here.
Yeah.
Kansas is at home for 2 games
Right.
before they come to Austin. So,
And what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on not going to hold you to this as far as Rodney is concerned, but what have you thought he's done? How do you think he's done taking over for this situation? I mean, that's a lot of experience on that bench anyway with the coaches that are still here, and they were all brought in for a specific role. The only difference is they just got moved a little bit. Chris Ogden had to go back to coaching as well, and that's another guy that was a head coach.
I mean,
so he understands.
I get it. I think they've done a great job.
Yeah.
I think they've done a great job. They got 5 players who are playing their 5th season
Correct.
of college basketball. So they've got a veteran team. 23 years old is the average age.
Hey, Patrick, that goes back. They're older than the OKC Thunder.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
They're
I
older than the Thunder.
get Texas officials wanting to wait until the end of the season, because look, you're trying to project Rodney Terry building the program from scratch.
Correct.
Building the culture with his own recruits, his own players. What's that going to look like? And Texas typically has not been a place where they give a guy a first chance.
Mm-hmm.
They typically go find a guy who's done it. Vic Schaefer, been to the national championship game twice at Mississippi State. Mike White, been to the College World Series every year at Oregon. Edric Florial,
Championships.
competed for championships at Stanford and Kentucky before he came here. And that's just typically how they do it. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean,
If he wins the Big 12
man.
championship regular season, wins the Big 12 championship tournament, that's pretty good. It's
that's
still
pretty
gotta,
good.
You still got to go in there and
Still
in the
going to have to
tournament.
get, still gonna
Second
have to-
weekend.
Yeah.
Second
Second
weekend.
weekend.
I've
Yeah.
got at least second
Yeah.
weekend, because that is because it's what have you done for me lately?
Oh, for sure.
And if you win all the Big 12 and then lose that first game, well, he can't win the big one.
Yep.
And like however fair it is or not, you have to win a couple games, because once he does that, then he is equal to pretty much every coach in the last 10 years of Texas basketball.
Yeah.
If he gets to the second weekend.
Yeah.
So now
Right.
you can't compare him and go, well, we kept all these other guys when they weren't doing this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I love Rodney. I've known
he's-
Rodney
yeah.
since, he was here with Barnes, and the guy is
He's solid.
solid, rock
Solid as
solid.
earth,
And
man.
I love his approach with these guys. It's
Yeah.
very different from Chris Beard.
I think everybody was a little bit
Oh, good
different.
Lord.
Yeah,
I
we
mean, if
all know
if
that.
you were sitting near the bench and Chris Beard was coaching, earmuffs,
Yeah.
muffs,
Yeah.
muffs, more muffs.
Yep.
Rodney's going to get in your backside, but he's also going to.
What you mean, Chip? I gotta get over there and talk to him, man. Gotta make sure them boys
And-
out there
and
ready
Rodney-
to play.
He is being powered
Yeah.
by the faith that, he lost his dad in August.
Mm-hmm.
He's very spiritual right now.
Very much so.
And I'm not saying he wasn't before, but he is, and he's like, we're gonna do this out of joy and love, and you're kind of hearing that same message from Jerome Tang at K-State.
Yep.
It's very interesting because it goes against a lot of the whole Urban Meyer,
Yeah, the
Nick
old school. The
Saban.
old school.
Bobby Knight,
Yeah.
scorched earth, scare them into
Believe in everything.
breaking
they
them
do.
down and
Yeah.
building them back up in your image, and
It's a new era of
a new era.
basketball. Yeah, for
a new
sure.
era.
And a lot of people either respond to it, and you.
I mean, that's
here's
how
the
you
other-
coached Royce O'Neal, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
When
you
you
know
were
how that. Yeah.
coaching that AAU team,
That's
you
why I
benched
ended up. Yeah, that's why I ended up leaving.
an NBA player.
Hey man, I was just trying to look out for him. He was still going through injuries, and I didn't want him out there rushing.
You're trying to get him some
I
rest.
was trying to get him some rest
were trying
until
to
he
send
got
a
healthy.
message.
Yeah, I just got to make sure that he was healthy as we move forward. Let me
His
ask you
parents
this.
were like, "We're not playing for that hard cat
I'm
anymore."
Marge likes load management.
I was trying
Yeah.
to give him load management early so he could understand what it's like when he
Ahead
gets
of
to
your
the NBA.
time, Harch.
Hey man, I'm a trendsetter. That's what I like to call it.
All the other players are like, "Get his ass out on the floor, man. We want to win this game."
I was trying to look out for everybody.
Oh.
I want to ask you this: you wrote an article this morning on the Insider talking about freshman linebacker Anthony Hill and what the people are saying about him. We all know he was the top linebacker in the state, and definitely when you watch
the
his
country.
film, you realize, oh yeah, he's got that. But we've seen guys that look like that kind of come into the college game and try to find their way. And it takes some people a little bit longer than it takes others. But we've also seen that player that was looked at as one of the top players in the country, and he came in and played like one of the top players in the country. So what have you been hearing about Anthony Hill from his former coaches, from the coaches on staff? I mean, just the way my man goes about his work.
Yeah, he's all about business, and he is in it to
Yeah.
win it. And he's a
Kind of
guy
like Kelvin Banks, right?
Yeah,
A young guy that came in with a purpose and a
absolutely
plan. Focused.
Great call.
Yeah.
And I was talking to his high school coaches. They're like, he is just burning up his iPad, getting in the playbook. I'm hearing from sources in the program that the guy is killing it. They're already planning on him playing.
Right.
I mean, the words immediate impact are being tossed around.
Right.
And that's exciting because part of the reason he came to Texas was opportunity.
Right.
And with DeMarvion Overshone moving on, they're going to start him there. He's going to wear number 0, so it's not going to be hard to find him.
Hey now.
And he's built like DeMarvion. He's got long arms.
Nice.
He's like 6'2" and some change, right at 228. Kid ran on the 4x100 relay at Denton Ryan that finished second at state in 40.7 seconds.
Yeah.
40.7 seconds,
That's
people.
getting it.
That's everybody running a 10 flat 100.
That's getting it.
And he's 6'2", almost 6'3", 228.
Yeah.
Running like that? Come on, man.
And that's what the thing was that we missed in the bowl game. Not taking anything away from Dorsey, and the sideline to sideline. That's the part that
Yeah.
was missing from DeMarvion in the bowl game. And obviously we'll talk about the offense a little bit later. But watching them play and watching them go from sideline to sideline is so, so important.
Yeah.
And for him to be compared to that, that's good.
And he loves contact.
Yeah.
So that's inside linebacker mentality.
Right.
But he can come off the edge as a as a sophomore at Den Ryan, he had a strip sack in the state championship game against Cedar Park that was returned for a touchdown as a sophomore.
Yeah.
That dude's been making plays on the biggest stage from the beginning.
For quite some time.
And like the game that people talk about with him, they lost in the state quarterfinals to College Station his junior year. But he had 12 tackles.
I was going to say he had a ridiculous number of tackles.
He had a 2 sacks, a strip. He ran for 60 yards and a touchdown. I mean, this dude, and he cramped up so bad in the fourth quarter, his 60-yard touchdown gave them the lead. They're up 21-20, but he cramped up so bad he had to go to the sideline to get an IV. And while he was getting the IV, College Station scored and won the
they
game.
ended up winning the game, yeah.
26-21. So, and he was devastated about it. He's like, man, if I didn't come off the field, they wouldn't have won.
Right.
Well, you couldn't walk. So we have a problem here. But that's who he is.
Right.
And I think he's the guy that him and Derek Williams. Now, Derek Williams isn't even on campus yet. He's the
safety out of
he's
Louisiana.
the Raptor.
Yeah.
His nickname is the Raptor.
I was going to say, is that like you gave the Joker?
Kraken?
The Kraken, is that you did?
Nobody
did you
calls
give him
me that anymore.
Did you give him that?
No, he gave that to himself.
Okay.
And then he changed it to Defoe and the Joker.
And the Joker,
I'm
that's
like,
right.
The Kraken, he's like, man, don't call me that anymore. It's Defoe.
So the Raptor is going to be a guy that everybody should be looking for. Derek Williams.
I just like the way he plays.
Yeah.
Anthony Hill is a guy who knows he's got talent, knows he's got gifts, but he doesn't act that way, and he works.
Right.
And he grinds, and he does every
Kelvin
little thing.
Banks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When your best players are your hardest workers, that's when the magic happens.
Yep.
And now Arch Manning's got that kind of work ethic. Anthony Hill, Jonte Cook, Ced Baxter, C.J. Baxter. I've written about him. This dude is another Bijan Robinson.
He looks like a specimen.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks, and I saw some videos of him working out, doing some running, and yeah, he's built different. He's built like a guy that could come in and play right away.
Yeah.
He's built like that. He built like what Cedric looked like when he first got here.
See, I think
Benson.
I think he's a little longer. You know, he's built like AP.
Oh, really?
Like he runs straight
'Cause
up
he's
like
tall.
that, kind
Yeah,
of like
like-
Dickerson.
Yeah.
And
Adrian
he
Peterson.
can catch it.
Nice.
He's a much better pass catcher than Adrian Peterson. Let's put it that way. AP struggled a little bit.
Yeah, he did coming out of the backfield. We're just going to run with
We're
him.
just going to hand him the ball.
Go straight. Thoroughbreds don't
1,900
back up.
yards as a freshman. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
I mean, people forget, and I'll never forget.
And he was going to be that guy that everybody kept saying he looked like he could go to the NFL straight from high school.
Yeah, I'll never forget the OU defensive lineman who came to media days that year said, this dude looks like he's been in our weight program for 3 years.
Right.
And he had that man strength.
Yeah, he was built different.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys that you were like, oh, whose dad is that?
Grown man strength.
Like Samaje Perine lifting weights, and everybody thought it was somebody's daddy. He was that big when he went to Oklahoma. We're going to continue this conversation a little bit later because my man Chip Brown has all kinds of nuggets in his Insider. You can follow all of his work at Horns 24/7. That's Horns 24/7. Or you can just follow him at Chip Brown 247. When we come back, we're going to be talking to a college baseball Hall of Famer, a Longhorn legend, and he just got his jersey retired. We're going to talk to the great Kirk Dressendorfer when we get back, right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Mike Harge here for All Stat Beer. Allstat is true German beer that is made with 100% true German ingredients. It's brewed right here in the Texas Hill Country, right up the road in Fredericksburg, Texas, right at the Allstat Brewery off of 290. They have a beautiful state-of-the-art brewery. The brewery prides itself on its award-winning German-style beers. The Great American Beer Festival just awarded Allstat Lager a gold for the second time. They also have a fine dining restaurant and a tap room where you could try new flavors. As a matter of fact, they just launched the G IPA. Ooh, you might want to get out there and plan a tour today and enjoy some great beer with some great friends and, of course, some great food. On the weekend, they also have live music, so plan a trip today. Go to allstatbeer.com to find a local watering hole where you can enjoy some or where you can pick some up on your way home. Either way, make Allstat your beer of choice. Allstat beer is made with 100% true German ingredients. That means German hops, malts, and yeast, and of course, that natural hill country water. Allstat beer, no impurities, no regrets. Welcome back to new theme Thursday edition of Ball Don't Lie. And the theme was President's Day. My man Patrick Davis had me all confused as I was going through it, but he did let me know that that's what it's all about. So all the songs will be about President's Day. We love it when you're a part of the show. Hit us up on the Specs text line 512-337-3776. I'm Hardball Harge. You can follow me on Twitter at Hardball Harge. My man Patrick Davis at It's Patrick Davis. Rob Babers is out, but you can still follow him at Rob Babers. And sitting in for Rob is my man Chip Brown. You can follow him at Chip Brown 247. And joining us on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline is a gentleman that I've known since 1988. I know, don't age us, but I've known him since 1988. He is a Longhorn legend. He was inducted into the Longhorn Hall of Honor in 2002. He was inducted into the College Baseball Hall of Fame in 2009. He has one of the best resumes of all time of any player that has ever played or pitched at the University of Texas, and he has just been told that his number 10 will be retired at the University of Texas. No one will ever be able to wear that number. My man Kirk Dressendorfer. Kirk, how you doing, brother?
I am doing well. How you doing today, Hard?
I'm doing great. My man Chip Brown is sitting in with us today, so I'm sure he's going to have a bunch of questions for you as well.
Dress, how you doing?
Hey, good. How you doing, Chip?
Good.
So, Kirk, man, look, man, here's the deal. You're a 3-time All-American. You have all Southwest Conference player, and now you have become the 9th Longhorn to ever have their baseball jersey retired, their number retired here. We can get into your numbers in just a minute, but when you got the conversation, we saw it on Twitter, but in your heart of hearts, did you think this was ever going to happen?
To be honest, not really. I mean, you hope it could someday, but it's been a while, right, since we were there. So I never lost sleep over it. You know, as a player, you learn to control what you can control, and I was proud of what I accomplished there. But and I was happy for everybody and it's a tough call, a tough decision. I wouldn't want to be the ones having to make those decisions. So, I've been more than blessed, and this is icing cherry on top of the cake. But I never worried too much about things like that because you get recognized for what you accomplished in other areas and other things. But this is kind of the pinnacle of that from a college standpoint.
Yeah, it's amazing when you start looking at your numbers from 1988 through 1990. You had the second most wins in Texas history with 45 and a 45-8 overall record. You had the second most complete games with 33. You are joining one of 5 3-time All-American first-teamers in the school's history with Bert Hooton, Keith Moreland, Big Red, Zeke, Greg Swindell, and, of course, Brooks Kieschnick. When you listen to those names that you are joining, that's some pretty doggone good company, isn't it?
Yeah, I was talking to my mom last night. Coming on to UT campus as an 18-year-old, never in your wildest dreams did you think you would be in that kind of company at any point in time. And it really is amazing. I looked up to the guys that preceded me. Getting to know Bert and Roger and Swindell and all those guys, and then afterwards with the ones that came after me with Brooks and Houston. It's just, and Taylor going in as well. I was a big fan of theirs after I got out, and it's an elite company, and just truly honored. And it's it takes a while to kind of get your head wrapped around it, but it's truly an honor.
So, Kirk, I'm looking at your 1989 season. You were at Texas 88, 89, 90. And 89, you were unbelievable. 18-2. You set the program record with 15 complete games that season. 2.35 ERA, 176 strikeouts, and 168 innings. And that team got to the championship of the College World Series, right? Played Wichita State.
That's correct. Yes.
And
yes.
I mean, what you strike me as the kind of guy who's like got all the records and stuff, but probably still thinks about how that 89 season ended? I don't know how that game went. I know Wichita State won at 5-3, but what a season that was.
It was quite a season, and one of the other guys that has his name up there, Scotty Bryant, was a huge part of it. I was fortunate to be in the dugout watching him do his magic, and it's the closest thing. Yvonne, Melendez did a similar season, a couple of years ago. So it was. Scotty was unbelievable. We came together at the right time, and I believe, if I recall correctly, we may have had the most losses in school history that year. So, it wasn't all cakewalk through. We kind of struggled through the conference season and really pulled it together and got going in the regionals. And I think we beat New Orleans to go to Omaha, and next thing you know, we're playing Wichita State for the championship, and that's kind of the last year of that single-game championship. So we ended up with the same record, which you get it going in, but it's hard. Like you said, gosh, one more game and one more big game, and tip cap to Wichita State. They had a really good ball club, but would have loved to play them a double elimination.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm sure every Texas Longhorn fan knew that if you got another shot at them, that you would have been going to game 3. That's for sure. We're talking a lifetime Longhorn and now newly retired jersey number 10. The number 10 will not be worn by anybody else at the University of Texas, my man Kirk Dressendorfer. And Kirk, we just went through your numbers, but you're going to be joining Scott Bryant, Roger Clemens, Bert Hooton, Brooks Kieschnick, Big Red, Keith Moreland, Zeke, Greg Swindell, Houston Street, and Taylor Jungman as your number will be retired. Only 9 players had their numbers retired. And the funny thing about it, the number 21 was retired twice. That's pretty doggone cool, too.
Two pretty good ones there, right? Yeah, I remember. Shane Reynolds came in. He wore 21, and that's a lot of pressure. Puts a lot of pressure on a guy. So, boy, I enjoyed watching both those 21s pitch all through their career, college and pro.
No doubt about it. So, Kirk, after you graduated from Texas and you got drafted in the first round, 1990 draft, you and I were drafted in the same year. You got a chance to play 8 seasons. Obviously, you made it to the big leagues. And, Chip was asking me during the break earlier today, he was talking about your arm and how many innings you had used in that deal. But I told him, I said it doesn't matter if Coach Gus would have went out there, if Tony La Russa went out there, and they asked him if he could throw, he was definitely going to say he could throw. But looking back on your career, you wouldn't have changed a thing, would you?
No, I mean you kind of injuries can happen at any time to anybody, so you kind of take the mindset you can go as long as you can, as hard as you can. I think there's been a good advances in arm care over the years, just because you only get one of those, and it's you got to take care of it. But you see the rash of Tommy John injuries, so I think that's the next course correction is going to have to happen in our game. But no, I mean, I grew up as an everyday player, and as a starting pitcher, it's hard to watch when you're in close games and you can go out there and help the team close out a game, even if you pitched the day before. So, just loved competing. That was what it was all about.
So your rookie year, you were not in the minors very long. They called you up. I think your first start was against the Seattle Mariners. You won the start and you struck out Ken Griffey Jr. twice. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I made the team out of spring training, which we had a loaded team, and it was a huge honor. And you get first game in the big leagues, you have your first. First out was Harold Reynolds, and first strikeout, I think Ken Griffey Jr. was the third batter, and he was my first strikeout in the big leagues.
How about
and
that?
That's a pretty good one to have. Yeah.
You remember what your approach was with him?
Well, the pitchers meetings the A's had were pretty advanced in analytics and going over the pitchers, the hitters, and he was only one of two hitters that the advice was just basically change it up because he has no weaknesses. That didn't give you a whole lot of confidence going into it. So it was really just throw whatever Terry Steinbach put down, and I think I got him on a 3-2 fastball that ran a little bit, and so it worked out for me. But I was relieved because he's a pretty terrifying hitter to face.
Oh man, yeah, that's got to be a great memory.
Absolutely, yeah, and it was nice having my family there. As a starter, you could plan it, and it was a special day for sure.
What can I ask real quick about Gus? His magic. If someone said to you, "What was his magic?" What would you say?
I would say, and I played for, there's a lot of similarities when I played for Coach Gus and Tony La Russa. It was just every day coming to the ballpark, being prepared, and they were intense competitors. And literally, Tony La Russa, even in spring training games, didn't want to lose. And I think Coach Gus was very similar, wired the same way. If we're here, we're here to win. I don't care what it is and what it's in. And he demanded, a lot, everybody to be ready to go compete at that level. So, and I had a lot of similarities, got along with both of them well from in the clubhouse. When the game was on, it was on. And loved playing where winning was the number one focus.
And Kirk, before we let you go, man, I wanted to ask you your thoughts on this year's team. You got a chance to speak to them earlier this year. First weekend is done, tough weekend, but they come back and they beat Corpus and 12-2 on Tuesday. But then they have their games that are going to be happening this weekend against Indiana. I've told everybody the key word this year is going to be patience and understanding, and as they go, we will go. So what was your first thoughts of this Texas baseball team?
I think they have, the talent, and I think that's what Coach Pierce wanted me to touch on a little bit with, especially my freshman year coming in, and I was fortunate to go 15-2, but you got to get adjusted to your surroundings really quickly, and the breaking in period has to be expedited, and I kind of talked through some of that, and I think they're going to be fine. It's tough, it's tough first three games right out of the chute. You saw them settle in the other day, and LeBaron looked great in his first start. So they have the talent. It's just you do have to be patient, and you got to get some games and innings under your belt, especially with the new players that are adjusting to playing at Dish Falk. But they're going to be fine. You get the talent, and everything else will kind of fall into place.
Yeah, and that's what we've been hoping for. So
yeah, and Pierce has got a new coaching staff. He said they have to get their communication down.
That's right. That's right. We make that change.
Oh, they have some. They're solid on the pitch. And the coaching staff too. They brought in some great guys. I played against Woody back in the day and enjoyed watching his long career in the major leagues. So they have a wealth of knowledge. Steve Rodriguez. They just have a ton of knowledge in that locker room. So they're going to be fine.
Yeah. There he is, my man Kirk Dressendorfer. Kirk, did they give you the date on which they're going to retire your jersey?
March 25th. It's a Saturday against Texas Tech. I believe the game's at 2:30. So we're looking forward to it, and heard from a lot of friends and teammates and family. So it's going to be an exciting day.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Congrats.
And it is long overdue, my friend. I appreciate you coming on with us, and we'll get this posted over at hornfm.com on our podcast page. But as always, I will see you soon and definitely see you around the ballpark, my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and love listening to you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, brother. Congratulations.
Congrats, Kirk.
There he is, Kirk Dressendorfer. Finally gets his number retired. Long overdue. The number 10 will no longer be worn at the University of Texas. When we come back, my man Patrick has an off the record for us. I guess people like to change their names. I don't know. Maybe it's Ocho Cinco again. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Off the Record on a new theme Thursday edition of Ball Don't Lie. My man Patrick Davis, we found this article a couple days ago, and we've been wanting to talk about it. We remember when Chad Johnson changed his name to Ocho Cinco, and then there was a couple other players that went through this same format, decided that they wanted to change their names. But just recently, Robbie Anderson of the Arizona Cardinals decided that he wanted to change his name. So, Pete, tell us a little bit about this.
Well, so last year, before the 2022 season, Robbie Anderson changed his name from Robbie with a Y to Robbie with an IE. He was like, I prefer to spell it IE. So he made the change, made sure everybody knew that everybody had changed it. So he had to spell it ROBBIE now. Apparently that was not good enough. Maybe he got too much flack for it, because then he is now apparently posting on social media that he's changed his name again legally, and he will now be known as Chosen Anderson.
What in the world is going on?
So he is
His
now.
mama call him Clay, we gonna call him Clay.
I will say he didn't change the name that is going to appear on the jersey. So it's still an Anderson, I believe,
on the backside.
on the backside. So it's still the last name is Anderson, but he is now, you have to call him Chosen in practice. Yeah, that seems like a weird thing to call somebody all the time. Hey, what's a nickname for Chosen? Hey, Cho?
Cut.
Cut.
Yeah, you're cut.
Yeah.
Unemployed is what it's going to. And that to me just goes to the fact of, did he change his name just because? Did he change his name because he wanted to be different? How many Robbies did they have on their team? Was that the problem? But to change your name, the spelling, number one, and now number two, you want to be called something totally different? Does this happen often? I guess would be the biggest question.
Not for football players and not for people in the public eye. And normally, like, there's been stories of
Except
like,
for Ocho.
Yeah, and there's been stories of people that'll change their name, like, to change it something privately,
Yes.
and then they're like,
from
yeah,
Lou
but my
Alcindor to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Maybe
Yeah.
it's because of a religious belief. Too.
yeah, and I think this has something to do with religion as well. That it's something about religion, but at the same point, there's names that just don't go well with someone having to call you it all the time.
Yes.
And so, I mean, in practice, you're just Anderson now. Like, there's no way anyone is referring to you as Chosen. They're just like, oh, you play football, we can just call you Anderson from here on out. But yeah, if you have drafted Robbie Anderson in any of your fantasy leagues, you can now have a guy that you have drafted under 3 different first names.
Right.
It's Robbie with a Y, Robbie with the IE, and now Chosen. And then I'm sure he's going to change the spelling of Chosen next season and just keep it moving.
So here's the other part of it. If you decide you wanted to trade Robbie Anderson, do you get chosen as the player to be named later? So you can get both of them.
This sounds like a trick to be the guy who's always picked last at like playing pickup ball.
Exactly.
He's like, you have to pick me. My name is Chosen.
Yeah, this does not make sense at all. But to each his own, and if that's what he wants to be rolled by, it's kind of like that part of the Kings of Comedy. I'm not gonna call no grown man delicious. What am I call a grown man delicious for?
Be chasing him down the street.
He's like, hey, Chosen, come here. No, I'm not doing that. I mean, I can understand Robbie and just changing the spelling of it. I just don't see how we're gonna call another man Chosen.
I do like. There's another comedian, David Cross, had a bit about he named his dog Red Sox because he lives in New York, and he wanted to be outside, being like, "Come on, let's go Red Sox! Come on, Red Sox, let's go! Hey, Red Sox, let's go!"
Well, that sounds way better than me
great
calling
joke.
somebody Chosen. It never ceases to amaze me, some of the things that we see throughout these days. Chip, before we go to break, this question came up the other day, and I wanted you to address this because people did not believe me. You, my friend, are a Razzie voter, correct?
Yes. The worst movies of the year.
And
I vote on them.
And people thought I was joking about it when the Razzie came out with some of their awards. Were you the one who voted that girl, that little kid, as one of the worst actresses out there?
Probably.
And they had to come out and make an apology for putting her in the Razzies.
Crushing her spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She is trying to chase her dream, and you have voted her one of the worst. You got salty, Shannon B. Sweeney, as part of to be a voter as well, correct?
That's right.
See there?
That's right.
See, y'all thought I was crazy
I
when I said
mentioned
my
the
man was
Razzie
there.
Awards in a column I wrote at the Dallas Morning News, and they invited me to be a voter.
And now you are always going to be a voter.
I'm right there.
And I think you voted The Rock as one of the worst.
Yeah,
at
he
one
had
point.
some tough films there.
Is Grease 2 a Razzie?
No, Grease 2 is one of the best movies ever made, and you can't tell me different. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. We got my man Chip Brown sitting in with us. We're going to try to figure out if Aaron Rodgers just came out of his hole, and do we have 6 more weeks of winter, or is he going to pick a team?
And the Cardinals website still has Robbie Anderson.
No, they got to get that changed.
They got to get that changed. He's
They
not
got to change a
chosen
lot
yet.
of things in Arizona.
Exactly. There's a lot that needs to be changed. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Mike Harsh here, and I want to talk to you about Allstat Beer. Allstat is born in Fredericksburg, Texas, right in the heart of the Texas Hill Country. They have that beautiful state-of-the-art brewery. On the weekends, the brewery also has live music, so you need to plan a trip today. And while you're out there, go into that fine dining restaurant and enjoy some great food. They also have a tap room where you can enjoy more flavors of all the great beer. You can enjoy some great beer with some great food, and of course, bring some great friends. Go to allstatbeer.com to find a local watering hole where you can enjoy some on your way home or where you can pick some up. That way you can make Allstat your beer of choice. Allstat beer is brewed with 100% German ingredients. That means German hops, malts, and yeast, and of course that natural hill country water. Allstat beer, no impurities, no regrets. Is this Stevie?
This is Stevie.
That's what I thought it was. I heard that the way it hit right there. Welcome back to New Theme Thursday edition of Ball Don't Lie. It's your boy Hardball Harge. The theme is President's Day, since we just had President's Day. So all these songs have something to do with the presidents of the United States. My man Patrick always digging in the crates and finding out some good things for us. Tonight is Thursday night. You got Longhorn Weekly with Rodney Terry right here at 7 p.m. We got the Longhorn Blitz podcast replay with Jeff Howe, Rob Babers, and Matt Butler at 8 p.m. Make sure you tune in to listen to that tonight, as always. We got my man Chip Brown sitting in for Rob Babers. Rob Babers was out today, but he will be back tomorrow. I will be out tomorrow and doing the Carbach Round Rock Classic up in Round Rock. It will be LSU, Iowa, K-State, and Sam Houston. The games kick off tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock, LSU, the number one team in the nation, will start the tournament off against K-State, a Big 12 foe. So I'll be up
How
there
would
scouting.
you describe your style
As far
as a color man on baseball broadcast?
Color analyst. I'm
Color
not
analyst.
color man.
No,
You know?
color analyst.
As a color analyst.
That's racist.
That's racist. As a color analyst, I would believe that I'm more of the guy that kind of talks you through what you see and to kind of explain how things happen. That's what a normal analyst would do. I'm not going to overbear you with all the.
You're not gonna. He needs to throw a slider right now.
No, I'm not going to do that. I will try to give you a little insight to how to set a guy up. I will tell you how the infielders and outfielders should be working together. And I would probably tell you what I would personally do in a situation.
That's good.
And I would also be very I would humble myself, because even when the Longhorns last week, when they were making errors, I even said, I was like, I've been there. I know exactly what they're going through. It's early in their career. They're trying to make some plays, and you know as well as I do, the ball seems to find you during that time when you think it shouldn't find you.
Harge, I've never seen 4 errors lead to 8 unearned runs.
8 unearned.
Unearned runs.
And add fuel to the fire. The guy that hit the grand slam, he hadn't hit a home run in 2 years. He hadn't hit a home run in 2 seasons. So when that happened, it just so happened that the floodgates. But as I said, it was the first time those guys were put into that situation. They played the game before, and later in the game, they made some great plays. But you just look at the energy of it, and now they're playing on their home turf. They open this weekend with Indiana of the Big Ten. They will be coming in, and I think they'll get right again. I think they'll go up there and have some quality at-bats. I think they'll make some quality plays as well. It's just a difference in you've seen this before, because Arkansas travels. And they woo pigs. They call them hogs, and it is loud, and it's new for some of these kids when they get out there. And you go through the entire weekend. You got 2 freshmen that are starting at first and third right out the chute in a big night. Then on Sunday, you have 2 more freshmen playing in the middle of the infield. So there's a lot. And Cam Constantine, he never gets to play first base. This is the first time he got that opportunity. And Tanner Carlson's a new player as well. So you look at all of that, and you're like, okay, there was some butterflies. I've been out there. I know what it's about. The energy in the stadium is a little bit different than you playing at your high school field. I mean, it's just different. And then you get the home cooking when you get home. So you feel better, and the people aren't cussing you out. They're cheering for you. They're not calling you every name in the book when you come to the plate. They're trying to lift your spirits. So you get your feel for it. And now you get the transition, you get to play a little bit more. So we'll see. We'll see what happens this weekend.
Did you see David Pierce almost get decapitated by Preston Brown's foul ball?
Yes.
Tuesday night?
Yes. It was the second time that he's almost had this. Trey Faltini almost had him last year.
I mean, Pierce just ducked back out of the way.
And when his helmet came off, you could see the hair standing up because he knew that was close.
That's scary stuff.
Yeah, that's why they wear the protective helmets.
Yeah.
That's why If he would have had both of them on his ears, the ear flaps, he would have. Then he'll probably
He
had to be
needs-
paying attention.
I bet next game he's got the ear flaps.
Well, I bet next game he's a little further down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Don't
You got to
be-
move.
Don't be up front in that box.
You got to get
Get
back.
on the back
Get
half
on
of
the
that.
back side, especially with Porter Brown hitting the ball the opposite way. What we want to get into right now, and we'll continue the conversations about Texas Longhorns here at the bottom of the hour. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Aaron Rodgers. You know, he's one of these guys that he's not afraid to let you know that he's going to be going and lay down somewhere. He's going to be out of the limelight. But he always tells you the story because he has that weekly conversation with Pat McAfee and his group, and A.J. Hawk is part of that group. So A.J. Hawk is a former teammate of his, and Pat McAfee, one of the hottest dudes in entertainment right now. But Aaron Rodgers went on this trip where, by the way, it looked like he just went to vacation in the mountains and just decided, I don't want to see anybody, so I'm going to go into this little hideaway.
I don't want to see anybody, or anything.
Or anything.
Just
walk
pure
outside
darkness.
and just walk out. But there was a candle in there. They had a bed in there. They had all kinds of things in there. I'm like, what
What
kind
were you
of
expecting
retreat
where
is
they
this?
didn't have a candle?
I'm like, what is going
A
on? with this
luxury
guy?
of a
I mean,
candle.
that dude, I can't. Where's the lighter? He had a yoga mat in there. But when you think of Aaron Rodgers and his self-reflection and going to meditate at this time, but during this entire time, he is leaving his team hanging with what his plans are. Now, he did go on this retreat for 4 days. He's out of it now, and now he's back into the world, as we like to say. But when you hear all this stuff with Aaron Rodgers, what is the first thing that comes to mind to you?
Diva.
Well, we knew that. That's definitely one of that. Diva. Like, it's too much sometimes. Like, it got to the point where every year we're trying to figure out what's next for Aaron Rodgers. But he wanted a bigger contract, and then he gets the contract, but now that's still not enough. I'm thinking about possibly just retiring. I mean, what we give you what you want, and you're still not happy about it, and now you're gonna. I'll let y'all know what I'm thinking in the next 4 days when I come out of it, and we'll decide what's gonna happen to my career. Like, what? You said it earlier. He's in legacy danger
he's
right
in
now.
legacy prison.
Like, what's next?
He's not about the team winning. He's not about doing the things that he needs to do to connect with teammates and bring receivers along and, make it all about team.
Right.
The way that Brady did for his whole career. And when you get into that point where it's about you and your MVPs and your Super Bowl and how are you serving me, man, that's when it all goes to HE double hockey sticks, because it's not about team.
Right. Well, even if you think that you're better than Brady, even if you think you're better than Patrick Mahomes, you're still not doing the things that those guys are doing for their teammates. The cohesiveness, the getting together, understanding what each other's strengths and weaknesses are. What route do you want me to run on this? Even my man Russell Wilson, as bad as he was, he brought those guys out to his house. He had a field in the backyard where they were working the entire time, and he was trying to get to know these guys. Well, but when they got to the field, it was a totally different thing. He had his own little office.
Hey.
He had his own little diva situation.
Nathaniel Hackett. I'm blaming it all on Nathaniel Hackett. That
Because he
dude
let
didn't
him
know
have it,
what
right?
he didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
That job was way too big for him from the beginning. That was a disaster.
Yeah, and it ended up being a
And now?
disaster. And now he's got Sean Payton.
Let's go.
He's
Now if things aren't working, we can blame Russell Wilson, but I bet it works out.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know my son DJ is praying that it works out because
Russell's a winner.
he better be. I mean, with all the money that he just received, but see, that's what happened to him. Everybody's looking at him as the diva. Everybody's looking at him as the guy that doesn't get along with teammates. We heard the story when they were in Seattle about him, but then they thought he was a dork. Now it's to the point where it's like, okay, Now I'm the cool guy. Now I got the hot wife. Now I'm doing all these things. And they just gave me a bank in my backyard. That's how much money he's got. So now you're sitting there looking at him and saying, okay, can you fix this now? Sean Payton, they brought him in. They bringing back Vance Joseph on the defensive side of the ball, which that's amazing to me. And I'm glad Vance is humble enough to take that job, to come back and coach in Denver, and Sean Payton to say, hey, man, I think you can help the defense and put us in the right position, because there is a lot of talent on that defense as well. They did well in their drafts, and there's talent at the wide receiver. But getting back to Aaron Rodgers, when you leave this team in, quote-unquote, the darkness for a while, and now you're trying to come back and let them know, how soon do you give them the answer? When does that happen? Do you give them the answer this weekend and say, hey, you can trade me, you can look to move me, you can do all these other things, or do you just continue to keep them in limbo?
Well, if the Packers don't like the answer, they're going to tell them to go back into the darkness.
Go back.
Or we'll just send you
Hello,
to
darkness, my old friends.
New York.
Yeah. So I'm just curious to why now. I mean, he could have went on his vacation, and he didn't even have to tell Pat McAfee that he was going on this retreat. He didn't even have to say any of that. He could have just went and did it on his own, but he wanted his name into the conversation throughout this whole move. And that's the frustrating part to me.
A-Rod knows when he's getting his name out and stealing headlines and when he can get the most attention. It's kind of comical. You know, for a guy who hadn't won a Super Bowl since, 2011?
Yeah, and that was him and
2012.
Mike McCarthy in Dallas.
Yeah, in Dallas.
Yeah.
What's weird to me is if you want to go to, like, Tim Duncan was notoriously frigid around new teammates. Like Tony Parker will say, he didn't talk to me the first 2 years I was there.
Right.
So, like, there's that guy. Tim Duncan didn't do interviews. Tim Duncan didn't, like, he just, like, I don't talk to anybody. I don't like talking.
Right.
So I'm going to go play basketball, walk out.
I like
Aaron
wearing baggy
Rodgers
clothes.
Does a weekly interview. Aaron Rodgers is constantly being put in the spotlight.
Yep.
He's dating celebrities. He's doing all these things. There you go. You can't have it both ways where you want to be the standoffish guy to everyone on your team, but then to everyone in the outside world, you want to walk out and you want everybody to embrace you and love you. You have to, like, it's what's the Beatles? The love you give is equal to the love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The funny thing
you
is,
have to do that. And he doesn't want to do that
his
part.
personality is so big for Green Bay. If either one of you have ever been to Green Bay, it is a small town.
Right.
It's a small town. I would love for him to go to New York,
Yeah.
where he's got
Well, he would be under that microscope of that.
and
people
columnists who don't give a flip
Yep.
about what he's saying or doing, because you got the Giants in the same market.
You got the Yankees. You got the
I mean,
Mets. You got all kinds of stuff that's going on.
He's
you
got
basketball.
He's got reporters in Green Bay who play ball with him at every turn. Probably go out of their way not to ask any kind of confrontational question. You go to New York, it's like, dude,
Yeah.
who do you think you are?
Right. We will humble you
I'm just
quickly.
hoping for that.
Okay.
That's what I'm hoping for.
But so if you're the Jets and it comes up and he says, I'm willing to be traded, we're willing to work on the contract structure to make sure we get over there, what are you giving up for a guy that 50-50 he quits after this season? And I'd say there's a 20% chance he would, if things don't work out, he leaves during the middle of the season and just is like, no, I didn't sign up for this.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
That's a realistic chance.
Right. No, it's tricky. It is tricky.
So what do you give up when you go, hey, we're giving up because we think we can win, but we also know our window may be one season at max, because if he comes in and the New York media gets tough on him, he may just walk out and just go, yeah, no, I don't like this either. I'm retiring.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the sad part about it.
He's got
because
enough money. He don't need it.
Well, and that's the other part about it. It's $59 million that is sitting there. Like you need to make a decision, because that's a lot of money for those guys that can go out and go get somebody else. So let's just say, okay, Aaron Rodgers decides to stay. He stays in Green Bay. What do the New York Jets do? Do they go get David Carr? Do they trade for Action Jackson, Lamar Jackson? Do they try to make a move for that? Or do they keep trying to figure out what's going to happen with their quarterback position and draft another quarterback? So what do the New York Jets do? Because this is a team that is waiting. It seemed to be Derek Carr and the New York Jets have mutual interests with each other. They really enjoyed the conversation, getting to know each other. But do you wait for Aaron Rodgers to say no to you, and then maybe Derek Carr goes somewhere else? And so you're stuck with Mike White, Joe Flacco, and Zach Wilson again? Or do you make a move and say, you know what, we're close. We got a lot of talent on this team. Do we make a move to go get a top-of-the-line quarterback?
You go get Nick Foles.
Oh, my gosh. Nobody's going to get Nick anymore, man.
What?
Nobody's going there.
No, I mean, I think there is a point of
Dilly.
I mean, and let's not forget Daniel Jones. Technically, I mean, they could franchise tag him, but he is now asking apparently for tons of money.
Yeah, $45 million.
So Daniel Jones may enter the market at some point in this offseason as well.
And hop across the street.
And I'm just saying that is an option for teams right now. And I think
if he's saying $45 million, that's not an option for teams.
I agree. But if he plays the market and he wants to go out there, that becomes a different person who is at least in there. Jimmy Garoppolo is another guy who is a free agent right now that people can go after. Derek Carr seems like the easiest choice for the Jets. But, I mean, that all depends on if they try and do the logical thing or if they try and make a splash.
Put on your GM hat, Chip. What do you do?
If I'm the Packers?
If you're the Packers.
I mean, I got him under contract.
Yeah.
So,
but have you already started testing the waters to see where his trade value would be with other people?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've had conversations of saying, okay, we want to move on to Jordan Love just because we're tired of being held hostage.
If I can get 2 number ones,
then you trade him.
Can you really get 2 number ones for a season?
Probably not.
For a 49-year or a 40-year-old
I mean,
quarterback?
I think you may be able to get conditionals.
What if I get a first and a third?
But like I think this whole trade is going to be built on conditional picks, right? Like if you want to have the best picks for Green Bay, then you have to go conditional and go, well, it's a first and then a to be named that if he plays X amount of games, if he wins MVP, if you win a Super Bowl, if you get all this, then we get 2 or 3 first. And if you don't, I think you have to put in there some conditions because then a team will go, oh yeah, we can give you that, and we'll gladly give you 2 firsts. We win a Super Bowl, but I'm not giving you a first, 2 first, and then halfway through the season, he still has not returned a phone call from a wide receiver.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah, and that's a problem too. That's my other point. It's like the diva-ness, to your point, Chip, and where they are mentally when you start looking at this quarterback. I think the Green Bay Packers, and you may be right. There might be somebody in that office Aaron doesn't like, but I guarantee you there's more people in that office that don't like Aaron than there is that one guy that he doesn't like. And I believe that they're all fed up. But they've been putting up with it because of the talent that he possesses and the fact that he and LaFleur, the first 2 years, went 13-3, but they ended up losing in the playoffs. Last year, it would seem like he was so disengaged. Like after that first pass of the season where he went deep to Christian Watkins, and then all of a sudden he didn't throw him the ball until late in the year, and he was like, man, we need to work on this. The receivers need to get better. You didn't spend any time with them.
Right.
To get to know them, to teach them how you operate. You just expected I can walk in there because of my arm talent and I'll make it work. There was no cohesiveness. And those routes that they were running were being trained with Jordan Love, not Aaron Rodgers. So Jordan was teaching them those routes. That's the part that, for me, if I'm a Green Bay fan and Lil Wayne has already said that he was done with Green Bay as long as Aaron Rodgers was there, and other fans are just getting to that point where they become kind of fed up with him. I'm getting to that point too. He's as talented as anybody in the league still. His arm is undeniable. It's just the other stuff that I think people are growing tired of.
They just re-signed Aaron Jones too.
Exactly. And he took a pay cut.
Pride of UTEP.
He just said, I will restructure my contract for you so you can have some money freed up. Aaron Rodgers wasn't doing that. That's why Devontae Adams was like, he just took up all the money. I'm out.
No, and I mean, you also got to think that every executive there knows, hey, man, if we go ahead and pull the trigger on Aaron Rodgers and we just say, screw this guy, he's played around with us too much, and Jordan Love comes out and is a complete dumpster fire, and we have a 2-win, 3-win season, we are all fired because we were the jerks who got rid of the best player that Green Bay's ever seen. And we don't even want to talk about Brett Favre because – and I don't want to talk about Brett Favre because I don't want to get sued. But
Exactly.
But they, you were that guy, and so you have to be able to go, Aaron, we need you to go on TV and say, I want out, and then we have to trade you.
Yep.
And we are in a better place then, but we can't trade our franchise player just because you're a jerk, because a lot of players are jerks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My man Barry Bonds had his own locker. You know what I'm saying? Two of them.
He had his own corner.
Yeah, exactly. He had everything taken care of. This is going to be a story until it's not, and this is going to continue to happen because there's so much conversation about Aaron Rodgers and where he's going to end up. There's a lot of suitors out there, but how much are you willing to give up if you're a team that wants him? That's going to be the question as we continue. And how much draft capital do you want to give up as well? When we come back, I want to talk to my man Chip Brown. We were going to get into if Lamar Jackson was going to sit out for an entire season, but I wanted to talk to Chip a little bit more about what he thinks about this Texas football team, and I want to know exactly what he thinks about the Texas basketball team. We'll continue the conversation when we come back on Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Oh, yeah. No. It's not a Blue Monday edition, not a Blue Soul Monday edition. It is a new theme Thursday edition of Ball Don't Lie. It is the presidents. It's all about the presidents. We just had President's Day, and Patrick has given us the way to roll with the presidents. I like that. I dig that.
Yeah, you got some Eisenhower blues. You got to go way back on this one.
But I'm talking about them blues, baby. I like it. I like that. That's a good line right there. My man Patrick always does a great job. We love it when you're a part of the show as well. Hit us up on the Specs text line, 512-337-3776. My man Chip Brown is sitting in for Rod Babers.
Hello.
And Chip, I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about this Texas football team, the expectations. Always high. We've always talked about people drinking the juice, right? The Kool-Aid. Everybody loves that Longhorn Kool-Aid. We were looking at it when we were headed into last season when Quinn Ewers was dropping them bombs and everybody was getting excited. Well, things happened throughout that year, and Texas ended up going, 8-5 when they had an opportunity to win that bowl game, and I was hoping that it would lead us into a promising season. But heading into the season, I want to have optimism. I want to be reserved, though. I don't want to go in there and have my burnt orange goggles headed into there. But I will say this. Texas should be playing for a Big 12 championship or bust. That's it. I don't think any other number or any – depending on the conference, just like basketball. Basketball is tightly contested. I don't see – the Big 12 being that tight. We do have some new teams that are going to be in the conference this year, so there might be some teams that can battle with everyone else that has been around this conference. But Texas, looking at their roster, looking at the offensive side, when has the offensive side of the ball had this many returning starters? It's been a long time since we can go into a season where the starting quarterback is back, the line is back, the position players are there, the wide receiver skill positions are there, but you're missing the most important part of your team, and that was Bijan Robinson. Oh, yeah, and by the way, Rojo, as well as the leadership positions. But heading into this season, it's Big 12 championship or bust, at least the game or bust.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they should have been in the Big 12 title game last year and didn't run the ball in the fourth quarter against Oklahoma State, and that's on Steve Sarkisian because he had 2 drives in the fourth quarter that were averaging 11 yards and 6.5 yards per carry, and both of them ended up with no points after throwing it on second and third down. So, that got away. But you could claim success because you won 8 games. You got Arch Manning. You got this loaded top 3 recruiting class. But now you're in the last year of the Big 12. You're going to be picked to win. You have 10 starters back on offense. I think they're going to be fine at the running back position.
I'm a big fan of Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, Jonathan Brooks, C.J. Baxter, the freshman, who's the best running back in the country coming out of high school, just like Bijan was. And defensively, you still have a lot on the defensive line. And I think Anthony Hill is going to come in and be able to handle business at the weak side linebacker position. And I think he's going to grow into a monster. So, with Jalen Catalon from Arkansas, an all-SEC player who's
all-American type of player,
all about winning.
Yep.
And has approached it that way since he's gotten into to Texas in January. And, Ryan Watts, you got Terrence Brooks.
Who I'm a big fan of as well. Ryan Watts was my pick to click for the season last year. He played well, missed that tackle against Alabama, but he played well throughout. And when he wasn't on the field, it showed.
Right.
When he wasn't on the field, it showed. But they bring back a lot of depth, and I really think Terrence Brooks, his run that he had in the Alamo Bowl, I thought he played great corner. Thought he had plenty of opportunities, and he made plays.
Austin Jordan is legit. Xavier Bryce is legit. These guys are all long corners.
Right.
And all of them, the fact that they didn't lose any of these guys.
Correct. And brought in Gavin
And brought
Holmes, too.
brought in Gavin Holmes from Wake Forest.
Yep.
Brought in Malik Muhammad, the number 1 corner in the country in the 2023 class, who's on campus already, battling. I hear that corner position is just like intense competition.
Love it.
Which is great.
Yep.
And you've got experienced leadership at every position group on defense.
Right.
So this is it. This is a huge year. Expectations, everyone's always putting expectations on Texas, but this is attainable
Right.
expectations. and look, the great coaches reveal themselves in the first 3 years. Tom Herman was in a Big 12 championship game
Mm-hmm.
in year 2. Mac Brown was in a Big 12 championship game in year 2. The great coaches are playing for conference championships within the first 3 years
Right.
of being on the job. Brian Kelly was playing for a national championship in his 3rd year at Notre Dame. So, Steve Sarkisian is a 9-win coach at USC. That's his best season he's ever had.
Mm-hmm.
We need to see if he can take it to the next level. See if he can, he's building it.
Yeah, he definitely
Love his
recruiting
staff.
well. And his staff is great.
Jeff Banks, oh man, is that dude valuable? Again, I'm talking to Anthony Hill, his dad, and he's talking about the relationship that Jeff Banks and Steve Sarkisian had with Anthony from the time Anthony was in 9th grade when they were at Alabama
Right.
and recruiting him nonstop. And as soon as they got to Texas, reoffered at Texas.
Right.
And it ended up that relationship was the difference. And that's
And his little brother. And Anthony Hill's little brother. He's
Yeah.
a big fan of Texas as well.
okay. But Jeff Banks, you hear his name in every
Yeah.
significant recruitment. And then you hear his name involved in helping connect Sark with Pete Kwiatkowski when the Pete Golding thing fell through at Alabama and the Mike Stoops thing or whatever that was. And then, Jeff Banks is involved in everything. I mean, the guy is so important.
Yeah.
And I said he would be the first one to get a head coach, and he would be the head coach of Washington State if not for Monkeygate.
Right.
Right at that time was when Rolovich, the head coach of Washington State, wouldn't get vaccinated, and they fired him.
Right.
And it was there. Banks was the guy. And then Monkeygate happened.
Which kind of works out in Texas's favor,
Well,
to be
for
quite
sure,
honest.
for Texas.
Right.
But for Jeff Banks, who's
Right.
deserving of a head coaching job
Correct.
because he does everything. And I think he's the one voice on Sark's staff where Sark really listens.
Right.
And I think Banks is the guy who's not afraid to stand
Speak
up
up,
and
yeah.
say stuff, and say, hey, we got to keep running the ball here, man.
Right.
And that's important. Like, we've been waiting on Sark to hire this special assistant on offense. And at
And it's
first he was
still not
looking at
there,
young
right?
guys, and then it sounded like he wanted a fired coach, kind of like Gary Patterson, where, he's got buyout money and they don't have to pay him a bunch of money.
Right.
And
He's trying to create the car wash like
Right.
Coach Saban.
right,
He's trying to create that
Right.
type of area where people can come in and still stay sharp and involved in the game, but not push too hard. Right? Okay.
but he
Show
needs
some blind
a
spots.
voice he's going to listen to,
Right.
a guy he respects, because he's got a lot on his plate as the head coach and the play caller in close games, and he needs a calm voice that he trusts to say, hey, man, just run it.
Yeah.
Which he did. He did run it against K-State, against Baylor,
Then
against
not-
Iowa State.
Not against
but
TCU.
not against TCU and not against
Yeah.
Oklahoma State. It was mind-boggling. I mean,
Right.
first and goal from the 2, first and goal from the 5 against TCU, and Bijan Robinson doesn't get a touch in either situation.
Correct.
That can't happen.
Ever again.
It can't happen.
And I think, hopefully he learns from those mistakes and realizes I need to give my guys an opportunity to run the rock, because that shows my offensive line that I believe in them too.
Right.
And they like any offensive lineman that we've
Wants
ever
to
talked
run
to,
the
they
ball.
want to run the ball.
They
We
wanna
used to
run
talk to
the ball.
Dan Neal. I hear Casey talking about it, Casey Stutter. I mean, they love running the ball because it's grinder. It's mano y mano. Let's go to work.
That's the only thing that scares me going into next year.
Okay.
Is Sark thinking he needs to throw to set up the run, or is he
Right.
going to be trusting and confident enough in Jonathan Brooks or C.J. Baxter to run the ball from the beginning and run it and play action, run it and play action?
Yeah.
Because in the bowl game, it was clearly a passing game plan.
So let me ask you this before we go any further. And I agree with you. It seemed to be that way, but as we found out a little bit later, Jonathan
Right.
Brooks was dealing with that sports hernia. Do you think that was the case? And that's why he decided, you know what, let's just start chunking it. But my other question would be, if that was the case, why'd you even play him?
Right.
Why not give the ball to Jaden Blue? Because we thought you said that he was going to play that week,
Right,
and
and
then he ends up not playing.
That was weird
Yeah,
because
he said it.
right.
It wasn't a
right.
report. It wasn't anybody breaking news. He was the one who said that. And
Right.
then we never got a chance to see him. And then you start Keelan Robinson, which I understand you wanted to give him a start because he'd done everything.
But then he kept running the ball with
Yes,
him. And you're going, what
exactly.
is going on
That's not
here?
who he
okay,
is.
well, now we find out Jonathan Brooks is going
Right.
to have hernia surgery.
Right,
Where was Jaden Blue?
right. That was the biggest question for me as well because Jaden Blue, he didn't go his senior year, came to school, thought he was going to get this opportunity. Obviously, a coaching change happened, but he was still one of the top running backs in the country, if not the top running back in the state of Texas, him and Reuben Owens. So you sit there and you're like, here we go. But I was just curious to what you thought about that and why, if it was more because of the fact that he had that sports hernia and didn't want to have him running that much because of that.
And it's very possible that was a bigger part of the equation than anyone knew at the time.
Right.
And the thing is, I love Sark's running numbers. Like if you
Yeah.
look
Oh,
at
yeah,
his
his numbers are
offenses at
always great.
USC, at obviously at Alabama, he runs the ball. Like Najee Harris
Oh, it was a monster.
was a monster
Yeah, and he wasn't even the best player on the team
And-
because you had so many other backs in the
and
backfield.
caught the football.
Wasn't that the same team with Josh Jacobs? Josh Jacobs was somebody that wasn't even getting that much run because they had so many running backs.
Yeah.
They had Brian Robinson. I mean, they had so many backs.
They had backs coming out of their backs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what Texas is trying to build as well. Before I let you go, Chip, I know you got to get up out of here. I want to talk to you one more time about the Texas basketball team. Their path to the Big 12 championship is a lot tougher. You said this earlier than Kansas's heading into this week. But what is it that you see the most from this team, besides the age, but more importantly, this team as they play together?
Well, I love their energy against Iowa State.
Yep.
You're at that point where, man, everyone's beat up and been through it.
Yep.
And you're trying to get to the finish line, and then you got to be fresh
Right.
because you got the Big 12 tournament. You could play 3 games in 3 days, and
Right,
blah
right.
blah blah. And then the next weekend you're playing for
real.
for real.
Yeah.
And I just loved their energy against Iowa State. Now, they were at home,
Yep.
but they got to take that energy into Baylor.
Right.
The
Farrell
second
Center.
the Farrell Center. The second half of the K-State game in Manhattan was the best half of basketball I've seen all year. And Christian Bishop was,
Yeah, he was possessed.
maniac.
He was possessed. Yeah.
and he's bringing that kind of energy and has to bring that kind of energy.
Yep.
Dylan Dezou's been playing well. Like, everybody's kind of giving you something. With Beard, the big guys seemed like kind of an afterthought, and
Patrick, what'd you say about Chris Beard and the big men? How he didn't never want him on the court at the same time.
No, he had problems with big men. He didn't want to play offense very much,
Right.
and so they because he didn't like playing inside out,
Right.
and so they just did not like playing for him because they wouldn't get the ball very much. He'd be like, "Well, go get an offensive rebound." It's not that easy.
Right. They're
yeah,
boxing me
Trey
out.
Mitchell's up there in
Right.
West Virginia.
Right.
But Dezou's been playing well. He's hitting that free throw jumper.
Yep.
He's
That
he's
mid range.
that little mid-range.
Yep.
And when you got to bust zones, that's where you got to hit from.
Mm-hmm.
Brock Cunningham does a great job of getting to that free throw line. when teams zone them. And that's what's great about having 5 players who are key. 5 key players in their 5th year of college basketball.
No doubt.
I mean, Jabari Rice, Timmy Allen, Christian Bishop, Marcus Carr. You got guys who know, they've been around it.
Yep.
And they're just fun to watch, man. But they got a big challenge. Baylor's coming off a loss.
Yep.
And
they're going to be pissed.
They're in the Farrell Center, and they're tough, man. They're tough.
Right.
All their guards can hit. Now they got, Jonathan Chachua.
Yeah, back.
Yep. And he's a load. And so let's put it this way, if Texas wins the Big 12 regular season championship, it is one of the best stories of the last 5 years in college basketball.
Yeah.
With what's happened here.
Yeah.
With Beard getting dismissed. And you need Tyrese Hunter to just lock in defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Just give you that dog on defense, because that's when his offense comes. When he's starting to let his shot affect his game, and
we were talking about how
he can't do that.
Kept getting beat the other night, and he wasn't playing the best defense that he had been playing, and that's what
he
we
needs to be
expect him
Royale
from.
Ivy right now.
Yeah, locked down.
He needs to forget about offense.
Yeah,
if the offense comes, great, because
it felt like his rhythm finally came the other day.
Right.
He knocked down. He got to see a couple balls fall down. We got a backdoor cut, got a layup, great pass by Christian Bishop. But those are the types of things that ignite players.
And his offensive numbers are not that far off from last year.
No.
It's his defensive numbers that have fallen. He was averaging 2 steals a game. He would get you some blocks. He's not doing that as much, and his assist numbers are down.
Yeah.
And I think he has struggled with when to
take over.
Because Marcus Carr has been really good this year, there's no doubt. And Carr's been really good because of Tyrese Hunter taking that load off of him. Carr can move without the ball and go score. He doesn't have to set up the offense and get everyone involved. That's Tyrese's job. But Jabari Rice, that dude he's the MVP of this team.
Right.
I mean, I just
Sixth man of the year for sure.
My God, the
and
guy
no matter
is
where
such
it
a
is.
closer.
Yeah.
He just makes big time plays when you have to have it.
Yeah.
And then you throw in that up fake, that shot fake.
The best in the world.
It's just so long. The funny thing is,
it's coming.
Oh, but what does a pump fake look like from everyone else? It's that quick.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a shot.
Yeah.
Jabari's like,
yeah.
And
he gets as high as he can on his tippy toes and then just gets past you.
And how many times has he gotten a guy in the air and gotten fouled on a 3-pointer at the end of a half?
Right.
Or late in a game when you have to have it.
When
you need to stop the momentum of the other team.
And you hear every coach over there, stay on the ground, stay on the ground. And then if you don't come out, he's shooting that thing and he's hitting the bottom of it. Yeah, he's finding his stroke.
He's averaging 17 points the last, 3 games, 4 games?
No doubt.
And he's shooting 46% from 3.
Yeah.
That's what you want at this time of year.
This is the time. And you got 3 guards that have won games in the tournament and taking their team into the second round. That's the important part. That's the part that I've been talking about.
No one wants to play this team.
And if they understand their roles, and the beautiful thing is Coach Terry has been playing Dessou and Bishop together. He's been playing Dessou, Bishop, and Brock Cunningham together, and he's been piecing it all together when all of these guys start moving around. So I'm really enjoying the energy that they're seeing.
And if he's not getting defense from Tyrese Hunter, he brings in Arterio Morris, who he has gotten to buy into playing defense.
The
and
bull in the
Arterio's
China shop.
A bigger, longer defender.
Yeah, and who's not afraid.
And when he's on offensively, woo.
And he can get to that rim anytime he wants to, because he's definitely going to try to dunk on somebody. Chip, before we let you go, man, tell everybody where to follow you at and where they can find some of your work.
Hey, come on over to horns247.com, Chip Brown 247 on Twitter.
And you also got the flagship
podcast.
That's right. Hit
Go
it
to
up.
the Horns 24/7 YouTube channel and find all those flagship podcast episodes, including the one-on-one with Chris Del Conte this week.
Yeah, that was pretty entertaining, and You know, he's not afraid to give somebody a shout out. Oh man, and Kyle Umling,
Oh,
man,
yeah.
he's hilarious when he attacks the Aggies on Thursdays, and that's today, and that's today. Just the fact that he even said that, I was like,
I was
wow.
cracking up.
That dude is crazy, but he will answer you if you hit him up on Twitter.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to talk to people, so it's always good stuff.
Texas fans should thank their lucky stars. Look at the facility renovation the guy's done, all the money he's raised
Yep.
through COVID. I mean,
He's done a lot.
It's unbelievable.
He's done a lot. And I appreciate you for coming in and sitting in for my man, Rob Abers. As always, that's my man, C Breezy, Chip Brown. Follow him at Chip Brown 247 on Twitter. Chip, as always, man, thank you, brother.
Hey, man, have a great weekend.
Appreciate you. We'll be back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. We extended ourselves a little bit the last segment. My man Chip Brown was on his way out, so we wanted to talk to him a little bit more and get some of his thoughts. When we come back, me and my man Patrick will talk a little bit about Sir Jabari Rice and how he's the rising star. I know he's an older player, but he's becoming more of a star with that pump fake, and everybody can't get enough of it. When we come back to Ball Don't Lie, right here on 104.9 The Horn. New Thing Thursday edition of Baldo Live. Was that Cat Williams?
It's Johnny Guitar Watson, man.
He sounded just like Cat Williams right there, especially when he was talking about my cognac.
Yeah, you don't want to be president because you have to say someone else would have to taste his cognac before you can take a drink.
Exactly. I love that right there. He sounds just like Cat Williams. My man Patrick Davis has done a great job getting us with the new theme today. President's Day was on Monday, and that has been the theme of this Thursday. You can follow him on Twitter at It's Patrick Davis. I'm Hardball Harge. You can follow me at Hardball Harge. And our man Rob Babers, who's out today, but you can still check and see what he's doing, and you can hit him up at Rob Babers. Special thanks to my man Chip Brown, ChipBrown247 on Twitter, for coming in and sitting with us today and breaking us down with some of his knowledge on the Texas athletic program. He had a great conversation with CDC Chris Del Conte the other day, so get over to the podcast for them at Horns 24/7 and go to their podcast page and YouTube. You can see the whole thing. Patrick, you know, the biggest story this year, and we've all been talking about it, and we're going to continue to talk about it because the man is just playing some good basketball all the way around, has been the development and the pump fake of Serge Jabari Rice and how effective it has been the entire time. Now, we knew that he was a good basketball player when he came here. He came in from New Mexico State, came in on the transfer portal, older player, great pull by the staff over at the University of Texas. They also brought in Tyrese Hunter from the transfer portal, and they've been a good additions to this team. Wouldn't you say? They've all been, they've had their moments. All of them have.
I mean, we saw Serge Jabari Rice when he first came in. We saw him do a lot of things. We're like, man, this is a really good glue guy, right?
Right.
And the pump fake, I know me and Eddie Orrin would be sitting courtside doing the games, and we would poke each other in the ribs when he do the pump fake because it was at first point. And I came in, I talked to Zay, I was like, what's your favorite part of his game? He's like, the pump fake. Again, it's amazing. It's the best pump fake around. And then about halfway through this season, he showed you the other part that he's been just setting us up the entire season.
Yep.
Oh, I'm a pump fake all the time. Now they're not jumping. So now they're not jumping as much because they're told to stay down. So when they don't jump, they don't even put their hands up. Because if they put their hands up, that makes them want to jump. So they come in with their hands low, and he just shoots right over the top of them.
Right.
And he has been hitting it so consistently.
Yeah, it's been an amazing thing to watch. And the one thing that I've always thought about when I first saw the pump fake, a lot of people can look at it and say it was a travel, right? Most of the time, referees will blow the whistle because they hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there was a conversation prior to games at the early in the season. Did Coach Beard mention it to the officials during the official meetings saying, hey, you need to make sure that you stay with him because he has this pump fake that he uses where he gets he gets as close as you can get to
He
being
gets
called
1
from
foot
a
off the
chair.
ground.
Exactly.
Because he just keeps his
one.
pivot foot down, but he actually
Exactly.
gets his second foot off the ground on that pump fake. But, yeah, I think there's something where, I mean, you can say beforehand, you can call the competition committee and basically be like, hey, so one of our players does this thing. We just want to make sure you're aware of it, so have your refs watch the video beforehand so
Right.
you know it and you can watch for it if it's a travel. We trust him enough that we think he can do it without traveling, but you can watch out for it because we saw that with Brock Cunningham for a couple years,
Right.
where he was getting everything was a foul because the refs were told ahead of time. They watched film on him and they went, oh, he does this clear out a lot, so we're going to watch for it. And now every player does it. Brock was just doing a little bit more, and he would always get called
before
for it.
his time.
Yeah, and so you can call the rules committee and basically get those things ahead of time so people know, hey man, don't blow it for us.
Right,
He
right.
has this move, but it's legal.
Right. And that's a beautiful thing because the way he goes about it and the way the team works together is huge. This weekend they have a big matchup against the Baylor Bears. They're headed in the right direction. They're doing things as a team that we've expected from them. This past week against Iowa State, that was an electric atmosphere. There was home cooking. They battled. They had a tough battle against Oklahoma. Now they're got to travel to Waco, right up the road, 1 o'clock at the Farrell Center this Saturday. It is important for this team to go out there and deliver the first blow. We've seen it go back and forth, right? We've seen them where they've started slow and they've had to battle back. We've seen them where they came out just in this game against Iowa State. They led from start to finish and they never looked back. what is the expectations heading into this game? We know they got their big player, George, who has been outstanding. What are you going to do to stop him?
So the first matchup between the two, they ball denied him. Basically, Tyrese Hunter did a really good job of it. Jabari Rice did it for a bit. Marcus Carter did a little bit, but it was and Timmy Allen did a little bit. You have to take time to do it, but you're basically rotating, switching everything they can do to try and get him open. You are completely cutting off any ability for him to catch a ball.
Right.
So he can't even be involved in the offense. Because they did that in the first meeting, you know that at home they are going to try and get him involved in this offense. He's going to want to go. I mean, that game, there was as many scouts as you will ever see at a Texas basketball game when Baylor came to town.
Yep.
I mean, Much Kupchak, the GM for the Hornets, I saw him walk it. So you knew GMs were even in the building, right?
Right.
So I don't think he wants to get shown up twice. And you know there will be scouts in the building there because of what they were able to do to him the first time defensively. So I think he is going to try and have a big game, and you're going to have to limit him. But the problem is when you start to go to him, that's when Cryer and Flagler start to all of a sudden light it up. And so if you overcommit too many resources to George, so if it's not one guy, Cryer and Flagler can light you up.
Yes, they can.
And so that's going to be the problem is all those guards. I know I mentioned Flo Thamba last time. He had a terrible game against Texas.
Yes.
Afterwards, I told people that was like when your mom says, I have Mo Bamba at home. It's Flo Thamba.
Yeah.
That was but he is still the type of guy who can hurt the Longhorns. So we will see if they try to use him more, try and put him in a situation to win. Texas did an amazing job against him last time. So I'm not as worried about him this time. He's still a thought you have to prepare for. But right now, Keontae George, he's going to be pissed off.
Yeah, he still had like 17 points against them last time.
He did, but that was because – and, I mean, you remember he took that shot at the end of the game from 5 feet from the half-court line to try and hit the game winner against Texas, and Texas ends up winning that game. He's going to come out and really want to show that he can play against a tough defense that is singling him out. So hopefully we'll be able to contain him enough and then – in the process of containing him, not have Cryer and Flagler just start nailing threes on top of us and getting us down in that hole because Texas has shown they can fight back, but that is not the team you want to do it against is Baylor.
No, you can't do that, especially on the road against a team like that. And they, too, are pretty pissed off because of the way that they performed here the last time that they played against Texas. They didn't have their best game at that time either. So do you
and they just lost to Kansas State.
And they just lost to Kansas State.
Who is their former coach, came back in and beat them at Kansas State. So they are
danced after they won.
And they lost the game before that to Kansas. Yeah. So they're coming off 2 straight losses, a thing that Texas has not done this season.
Correct.
And they are going to be looking for blood against Texas. It's going to be rough. The crowd is going to be going crazy, but you're going to have to get performances from everyone on that team.
Yep.
We talked yesterday about, you get 3 out of 5 guys that are kind of the extra guys going. Everyone's going to need to play, right? Yeah. This is all hands on deck. Tyrese Hunter, he had his best game of the season probably last game against Iowa State. I know now you're back on the road. Now you're not going against your former team, but, man, you need to come back and step up and at least play that shutdown defense you did on Keontae George. And if you can hit some of those threes when they leave you open and break apart their zones and break apart their defenses by hitting threes, Texas shoots threes. I mean, you're not going to shoot as well as you did against Iowa State because they were shooting, above 50%.
Oh, for sure.
But if you can shoot, closer to 40% on threes as opposed to the 20% that really gets them in trouble, you need to shoot over 30% to try and get that 35-40%, and you have a real shot to beat this Baylor team.
No doubt. And I sit here and look at it. The game will be on ESPN, so it'll be on national as well, radio. But most importantly, you can hear it all right here on 104.9 The Horn with our man. Is Craig Way going to be able to do the game with Texas playing baseball? He's definitely going to be at the basketball game,
because it's only in Waco, so it's a drive.
It's a drive.
The drive's much easier. It's when you got to go to Iowa. Okay, those are harder ones. But, yes, he's going to be doing the game, I believe, Friday for baseball, and they'll do Saturday for basketball. And, hey, I mean, he may try and drive back. Who knows?
That
Craig Way is a crazy
sounds
man.
like something what Craig would do, for sure. And it's going to be a big test for them. Baylor was sitting at number 9, possibly number 10 at some of the the polls. That's why ESPN is playing this one as their national game, and it's going to be fun. But when you look at going back to Sir'Jabari Rice and his performance with this team and what he brings to this team, what do you think his biggest attribute has been as a whole? When you watch him, we know how good he is with the pump fake. We know how good he's been shooting the ball. You brought up the fact that he had to play some defense on Keontae George, last time they were here. What do you think his biggest attribute has been to this team thus far?
I mean, I'm going to try and find the way to phrase it, but it's his fire. And it's that resiliency, that underdog ability that he wasn't recruited, and he's proved everybody wrong.
Kid
but
from
it's
Houston.
that keeping that fire going of like, no, I am going to continue to prove everybody wrong.
Right.
And a team that's gone through the adversity they have this year, you have guys like Timmy Allen and Marcus Carr who can be underdogs and have had stories in their life and everything else where they can play it, but they've also had enough success that it's maybe at points they lose that edge because they're like, oh, no, I'm supposed to be that good.
Right.
And Jabari Rice came to Texas, and he's not even a starter.
Right.
So
he
he
understood his role coming in.
But he knows, but he goes, I can go in there and prove, hey, I just got said I was the MVP of this team that I wasn't even good enough to be a starter on
Right.
at the beginning of the season. So I think he's given them that mentality. If he's the first one that at the Moody Center is getting the crowd pumped up and getting them back in the game, he's the one that when he hits a big three, he lets everybody know he hit a big three.
Right.
And he just brings that fire that you need. And I'm this old reference, but Mario Elie on the Spurs in '99, that toughness and that fire of like, no, man, we can't be smiling all the, like, we can smile when we're up 20,
Right.
but we can't be having fun when we're in a tight game. We can't be like, no, this is war. And
Right.
he has that mentality, and I think it's a great asset for this team.
And I think it's important, too, that what you said about the leadership part of him coming out there and that fire, getting the crowd involved
Yeah.
in the game. And this is a guy that is not originally coming to Texas.
Yeah.
This is a guy that not Brock Cunningham, who was coming here no matter what was going on. And you start to look and you say, all right, this guy gets it. This guy gets what it is.
No, I mean, he
and the
said
energy that's there.
He said in his one of the first games of the season here, he did the post-game interview with Craig, and he was like this is nothing. Like, this feels like an NBA game.
Right.
Like, he was like, this feels like and so he's fed off of that because he came from a New Mexico State team that had so much dysfunction in it
Right.
that they're not even playing this season.
Correct.
They had to forfeit the rest of their season.
Right.
So he came from that where you don't necessarily have the fan base, you're not packing out the arena and everything, to a Moody Center that, I mean, he didn't know the Frank Irwin Center, but it's a huge night and day difference. And then you got to talk about a team that is really banding together because of what they went through this year and atop the Big 12.
Right.
Everything's going right, and that's what I say is someone who can know how to keep that fire going and still be the one who was putting up 20 points even in some games we lost. He was still playing well.
Right.
You need that guy to round one of the tournament, be excited to be in the tournament, not content that they're a good seed in the tournament.
Right.
Excited to be there, excited for every game, excited to go to Baylor and see all those NBA scouts and go, y'all came in for Keontae George, write down my name.
Check me out. How you like me now?
Yeah.
He continued to play some great basketball, and as you look at what he does in the Big 12 conference, I believe he's averaging 13 points a game in conference play and 13.7, right behind Marcus Carr, 16.7 points, and Timmy Allen at 11.9 points per game. But he's also shooting 40% from threes, 27 of 67 from the three-point line. So, and he's shooting 89% from the free throw line in conference.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you want.
And
that's the clutchness
yes,
that
and
you
the
need
clutch
to
numbers
close it
are
out.
ridiculous.
Yeah, he's that guy that you always want to have the ball in his hand at the beginning of the game. And I know a lot of people keep wanting to put him in the starting lineup. He's getting starter minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
Manu
definitely
Ginobili
getting-
didn't play as a starter. I think it works better in the fact that he can be more of the offense when he comes in
Yep.
and be the spark plug you need of you have those sluggish starts and then you're able to go, okay, we're able to hold in the games and we bring him in and it's a different atmosphere. I wouldn't change it because it's worked well enough for you this season. So I don't think you touch that part of it.
Yep.
I get, man, what could happen if we put him in there more? He's also like one of the things you're gonna know is he is not a big guy.
Yep.
He is a slight guy. So
He's very slim.
so you don't necessarily want to give him more and more and more minutes because at a certain point that body is going to have issues holding up.
Yep.
So as what he's doing right now, he is able to play at a very high level for every minute he is in the game.
Yep.
And if you can keep it right there, you maybe have to push a little bit more in some of these, maybe against Kansas, maybe in a Big 12 tournament game, maybe in the NCAA tournament. But right now, I don't think you need to push him anymore in those minutes.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. What have you thought about Dylan Dessou's playing time and where he's starting to get so much better and seems to be getting healthier? I think that's the biggest part, because there were times where you were still trying to figure out if he was injured. Remember at the beginning of the year when he was limping around and you said that he had the sleeve on and everything. What do you think has happened with him as he's been able to play a little bit more and feel a little bit more comfortable?
The minutes he's giving, he is playing really well. He's been one of the few guys that consistently has fought for rebounds and really put a huge effort on both ends of the court. Part of that though is he does get into foul trouble a lot, and what's weird is he changed it. He was one of those guys that was really good about not getting into foul trouble, but then would pick up dumb fouls.
Yeah.
30 feet away from the basket. And guarding a guard on a three-pointer, would stick his hand in and hit him in the chest. And would just pick up dumb fouls like that. And it would be his second or his third foul, and he'd have to go sit down.
Yeah.
He's not doing that as much anymore, but he'll do the one now where he got a foul in this last game where he ran out and he's screening the screener, or he's screening the three-point shot, right? And he gets called for a somewhat bogus blocking foul on that one, or they call an offensive foul that it's an illegal screen, which it really wasn't, but they called it that way, right?
Right.
And he gets called for one of those a game now. So he'll get into that second foul quickly or that third foul too quickly, and he hasn't been able to stay on the court. And, I mean, we see with Christian Bishop there, you can't really play Christian Bishop and Dylan Disu together a whole lot. You may have to if you get further in this tournament and you start playing a team that has a couple more big guys. But for the most part, you want to keep your three guards on the court. And if you have the three guards on the court, then you don't necessarily want to have three small guys and then two big guys and no one in the middle.
Right.
So, I mean, I like what he's been able to do. I think he has definitely improved a lot. But if he could stay on the court and start to feel a little bit hotter at points, then he could have a bigger impact. And he's definitely one of those guys that you watch and you go, you feel like one of these games coming up, he's going to have that huge game.
Yeah, and I can't wait for it to happen because it's going to happen because of his track record and what he was before.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. One more player that I wanted to ask you about is Timmy Allen. We've all been talking about him, Timmy Tourniquet. Is he going to be able to extend some of these plays and be that leader? I saw him do an interview today because they had a media availability, and he was talking about the fact of all the other guys where he's not thirsty. He wants everybody to have theirs and get their shine, and he spoke very, very highly of what Brock Cunningham has been able to bring. We talked about the numbers yesterday for Brock, but what about Timmy Allen and how important is his role going to be down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, his role, it's always super important because he is the guy that will get left open. Or
Right.
not even left open, but they won't give an extra emphasis on him.
Right.
So he's going to have to be able to go in and, if not score himself, create the offense when they're really trying to take Marcus Carr out of the game and when they try and go over and keep Jabari Rice out of the game. And if Tyrese Hunter hasn't been hitting, who are they going to – they're going to play one-on-one against Timmy Allen, and he's good enough to beat those one-on-ones.
Right.
So I think his is just trying to figure out that middle ground between trying to be unselfish and trying to win his shot is the better shot.
Yeah.
Because you can be unselfish all day, but if you're going to throw it down to Christian Bishop, who's then going to look to pass it to Dylan Disu, and then Dylan Disu is going to look to pass it, and you're like, you just get to too many passes in the paint, and then all of a sudden it gets kicked back out again.
Right.
You go, no, Timmy, that was you. You had a pretty wide open 17-footer, and you can hit that all day long.
Right.
So I think he just needs to figure out that part of it where it's just, I get you want to be unselfish. I get you want to find the great shot, but when you have the good shot, take it.
Yeah. And knock it down.
Because he is deadly in that
Right.
mid-range.
Yeah. He's always in that area. So let's do this. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the NBA and what the expectations are in this second half of the season. Well, I can't even call it the second half of the season. I think they only got like 25
Home
games.
stretch, yeah, home stretch.
The home stretch of the season. I want to talk about your Spurs and tanking for the number one overall pick. But I think the Houston Rockets are trying to tank for that number one
And
overall
they are
pick.
too. Hey, we got Dallas and San Antonio tonight.
So that means that you probably finna get that loss for you. That's what you're hoping for. I can't wait for that and get some more information for you on this basketball team, your Spurs, and what's going to happen in the NBA. And I want to get your pick to win it all when we hit this home stretch. Right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. I like that right there. New theme Thursday. It was President's Day on Monday. So the theme has been all songs that have something to do with the president. And who is this one,
Man,
Patrick?
you know how to play some Vallejo. Vallejo is a
Oh,
song
yeah.
just about presidents,
There
one of their
it
bigger
is.
songs. So
I love it.
I'm gonna play
Love
my
it.
boys at Vallejo.
I was going to say, that sounded a little bit like AJ right there
Yes, it
screaming at
did.
us. So, AJ Vallejo talking about presidents as always. So, Patrick, the NBA starts back up after the All-Star break this past weekend. Now they're back on the hardwood. The Denver Nuggets will play the Cleveland Cavaliers, Boston, Indiana, Detroit, Orlando, Memphis, Philly. They're about to tip off right now. But the game that we're going to be talking about right now is your San Antonio Spurs travel up to Dallas, and Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic versus whoever you want to tell me is on the San
Well,
Antonio
the Spurs have a
Spurs.
decent team. The Spurs,
They do have a decent team, but are they really going out there to play? Do they play hard when they play the in-state game and deal with the victory or the loss there, or do they just go right at them?
so San Antonio basically this whole year has been a team that has played pretty well for 3 quarters and at the end cannot close out games.
Yep.
Which they're not trying to really, but it's at the same part, they have a lot of good young talent. So they get
This
around.
is rodeo road trip time, right?
Yes, so they have been on the rodeo road trip for a little while right now.
Yep.
But this is when, ease back into going back out after All-Star weekend. One of the few times that Spurs didn't have an All-Star. We
That's
used to
really
always have one,
yeah,
but not anymore.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. Your boy played, though. Sohan played in
Jeremy
what is that?
Sohan played. He is listed as day-to-day still.
Okay.
He's been dealing with, I believe, a shoulder injury, but we'll see if they come back. If Sohan plays tonight, it was Sumi Wood, but Devin Vassell is still out. He's supposed to be coming back soon. Keldon Johnson, of course, is the guy who is leading. He got paid during this season as well.
Yeah.
They're a fun team to watch for the 3 quarters, and then they get beat out. And you see
Is it
Kyrie.
okay for that?
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
want to lose.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, though, is you want to play like that because we can talk about the Rockets and their unwatchable basketball. So
Right.
while San Antonio is not, you're not necessarily watching great basketball, the one game I went to this season, they beat the Nets. So
Yep,
I did get to see a W there. But yeah, they're they have some holes on their roster. They just signed Bassey
Yep.
to a 4-year deal for not a lot of money, but a 4-year deal. So we're going to see him a little bit more as they trade Jakob Poeltl away. So it opens up a spot there. Zach Collins, they had signed to that 2-year deal. He's on the second year of it right now. I'm not sure if they're going to keep him. If they do, it's going to be as a backup role because he just hasn't stepped up to be that point. But Bassey has been putting up huge numbers for the Austin Spurs. So you go, hey, maybe this is another guy who can play for us for a while.
No doubt. So there was a conversation between your guy, Jeremy Sohan. He was asked a question, and he said,
Not my guy.
Yeah, I know he's not. He said, we're a young group, so it's not always going to be perfect. Well, they went and talked to Pop, and Pop being Pop,
Yeah.
he goes, yeah, they're young and blah, blah, blah. But that young thing is really getting old. They need to start making some better plays, stop making the same mistakes, giving up in the middle, not blocking out, or not getting back in transition, those sort of things. That part of the game is just unexcusable, and youth has nothing to do with
No,
that.
because that's effort. That's
Yeah.
on youth that you're supposed to be the
That's
guy
right.
who wants to go out and do that. Yeah, that's one of those things of, you have a problem on bad teams. And I think where Pop's saying that too is you're like, man, we don't want to be bad for long. So
Right.
you need to not develop bad habits of thinking, hey, man, I'm the best player in the court right now, so I don't got to run. Like, no.
No.
There is no best player on the court.
Exactly.
Because the best player on the court's probably wearing the other uniform. So y'all need to start running.
Y'all need to get out here and start getting after it because that is what we expect. The last time that they faced the Dallas Mavericks, they only played them one time, and the Mavericks won 126-125 on December 31st, and Luka scored 51 in that game.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I think Pop said, like, we're going to try and hold him under 100.
Yeah, that was when he was coming back because didn't he come when that was after a 60-point game or something like that?
No, we're going to see Kyrie and Luka are going to light it up. I think this could be a very high-scoring game.
Yep.
Unless Jason Kidd taught the other Mavs during the All-Star break how to play defense.
Which probably did not happen. Hey, guys, we got to make an adjustment because these two guys, they're not going to play defense.
Maybe got Dwight Powell off. I know. Look, as
My
much as
favorite
Sohan is
player.
my guy, Dwight Powell's
My favorite player, golly, that guy just really drives me nuts. And I don't even know why. I'm like, he's starting every single game. Maybe it's the same thing with Serge Jabari Rice. People are like, Serge Jabari needs to start. And they're like, no, we're going to keep our chemistry the way that it is. We're going to start Dwight Powell, but we won't let him play that much.
Well, once Maxi Kleber comes back, that's going to change up the rotation a lot.
Yeah.
Because he'll be playing a lot of those minutes. And then it'll be the question. I mean, I thought they were going to try and go after one of these guys in the buyout market, but apparently have not had much luck. I thought a guy like Kevin Love, and we know Kevin Love is not the Kevin Love of old.
Right.
But look, he can put his hands up and stand in the paint.
Correct.
And he's always been a good rebounder. He's got good rebounding instincts, and he can stretch a floor. He ends up going to Miami. I guess he wanted a beach after spending this many years in Cleveland. It's the only reason I think you go to Miami, because I'm like, they already have Bam Adebayo.
Right.
So you ain't playing that much in really. I mean, I guess you say you play the 4, but you're probably not going to play a lot there.
He can probably play the 4. I think Kevin Love still has a lot of basketball in him. I'm just surprised that he didn't want to go play in L.A. with LeBron.
Yeah,
Because he was
I
so
thought,
nice to him.
I thought L.A. would have been a place. I thought Dallas should have really heavily gone after him.
Yep.
Just because you need bigs that can spread the court, and he is a big that can spread the court.
Yeah, he can definitely shoot the
And
ball.
so, I mean, like if you're going to bring in LaMarcus Aldridge for a workout, you might as well try and go get Kevin Love. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
If you're at that level, I don't know how many guys are left out there that can fill that role, because like a guy, say DeAndre Jordan got bought out. DeAndre Jordan can't spread the court.
No.
So, I mean, there's not a lot you can put into that either.
No doubt. No doubt. Let me ask you this, because this has been on my mind since the day that it happened. Does this create in the West, when Kevin Durant went out there, and remember, Ja Morant was somebody that kept talking about the fact he's good in the West. He don't have to worry about the West. Well, the West now has gotten a lot better. There's a lot better players that are in there, and there's better intensity that is going to be in that league. You look at what L.A. is, the Clippers. You look at how good they are. I don't know what the Russ experiment is going to be like. I don't know how people are going to handle
It's
that.
gonna, hey man, it's gonna make it for weird viewing.
Yeah.
Because that is, I mean, like I always love. They're like, this guy's he's gonna come in and help us. Like, no, Russ is going to not pass the ball, and you're gonna be sitting there with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard being like, did that dude really just drive the basket and miss a layup
Right.
again? And I mean, like he didn't even look. He didn't even look to see if we were open.
Right.
He just drove the basket.
Yeah, just slashing and trying
Hey,
to get
man,
his
you said-
triple doubles.
You said you want to be like me, and I'm like, no, we want Russ. We want Russ light.
Yeah, we want you to look around and see what we have here and use this to your ability, because you can get the assist. You can get everything that you want. You just got to make sure that you get those passes to the right people and not try to make it yourself the entire time.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. But you look at what the Phoenix Suns have done by bringing in Kevin Durant. My thought was, when that happened, that this was Chris Paul's best opportunity. No matter what has gone on prior to this and how he's come up short, you now have Kevin Durant on your team, along with Devin Booker, with also DeAndre Ayton in the middle. This is your best opportunity, and this may be your final opportunity. I also look at it for Kevin Durant. This is another chance for him to go somewhere and not have to be the guy and still be the guy. Does this give them enough to compete for the championship? Because KD will play some defense. He'll go get some rebounds.
Oh
He
no,
won't
he's
play the
actually
best.
He's actually a good rim protector.
Right.
Because he's so long. He's 7-footer. He's long.
Right.
So yeah, I think he'll be able to play in there. The question is going to be, are they going to be able to function with one basketball, where Chris Paul is going to be the distributor? Is Devin Booker getting it enough? Is Kevin Durant getting it enough? Is DeAndre Ayton getting it enough? Are you able to put it there? And then you're worried about depth, because you go, okay, for guys, for availability of injuries throughout the rest of the season,
Right.
for, when guys get in foul trouble, when you give up Mikal Bridges and you give up a couple other pieces there, you've lost a lot of that depth. Now, they haven't gone super hard into the buyout market,
Right.
where that's normally where you replenish depth, but I think there's few guys they can put into that are still out there. that I think is the biggest question because right now they look like they should be fine.
Right.
Like they should be competing now. I don't know if that still puts them better than Denver, but it definitely puts them better than where they were at.
Okay. So if you had to pick a team right now to say that they would be representing the West in this championship, who would you put it on right now? If you just had to say blindly, this is who I'm going with.
Denver. And I mean, it's until they don't do it. And like if Jamal Murray disappears in the playoffs again, then yeah, it's anybody's game. And we'll know that in the first round.
Yeah.
If Jamal Murray's not going to step up. But if Jamal Murray plays like he can play and you have Jokic, who is still putting up is the best player in the NBA right now, it's just a hard team to beat. And they got a lot of supporting acts around them, a lot of guys who can shoot threes around them. So it's going to be difficult for anybody to come out and be able to beat this Denver team in a 7-game series that doesn't have, insane performances where, you can say, well, Phoenix, if Devin Booker goes off for 40 in 2 games and Kevin Durant goes off for 40 in 2 games, and that's still with everybody else having their 20 and 30 and whatever else, then yeah, Phoenix can. But until Denver shows that they can't,
Right.
that's the team.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Who you see coming out of the East? Well, let me back that up. Do you give Ja Morant and his squad, because they are walking around like they've already won championships before.
They are, and they should have traded Dylan Brooks. I know he's a guy, he does not work in that offense.
Yeah.
And he kind of puts a target on everyone's back there.
Agreed.
So Ja Morant can talk all the trash, and people are just like, yeah, that's Ja Morant, is whatever. Dylan Brooks is the guy. I mean, he's already starting fights in tonight's game.
Exactly.
We have been out of the All-Star break for 8 minutes, and he's already starting fights by hitting James Harden in the face.
Right.
So I get you want the intensity, but there's a line between it, and he passed it last season because he started to get a little bit more recognition, and so now that's his whole game is I'm going to get in your head, and that tends to backfire against stars. It works against other players, but when you start talking about the best and the best in the playoffs, hey man, you're doing that. Yeah, man. All right. Well, I'm going to go talk to the refs. The ref's going to see my side of it because I'm the star, and all of a sudden you're going to pick up those 3 fouls real quick, and you got to go sit on the bench. So I just think, and then Jaren Jackson is foul prone, that there is too many games that can get away from this Memphis team. That they're a good team, but there's too many games that can get away because they get in their own way.
And Ja Morant is one hard foul away from being off the court.
Yeah.
Because he too is a slimmer type of player. His explosiveness is one thing, but if somebody catches him at the right time and they both go up and he lands wrong, I'm not saying that's what they're going to do, but back in the day, that's what they would have did for sure.
No, but I mean, if you put Jaren Jackson and Dylan Brooks in foul trouble, and all you got to do is try and ball tonight Ja Morant and just play him tough.
Right.
You get away with a little bit more of bumping and everything else in the playoffs. I don't know. I think that it's going to be harder for him to get to that finals and beat a Denver team where you're going up into the paint all the time and you're playing against a really good team, or you're going up against Phoenix and they're just veteran guys.
Yeah.
I just don't see them beating those two teams.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But it's going to be fun. We're going to be heading down the stretch here.
Oh, and don't forget, Sacramento's going to beat everybody. They're world beaters this year.
Hey, I love the fact
they're the 3 seed in the West.
Because I love Fox, man. The way he's been playing, and he's taking that extra step. And shout out to Mike Brown. Mike Brown took that
doing
team.
a hell of a job out there.
And he's got that opportunity, and he's making the most of it. So I've been very impressed with what Sacramento's been doing. But come on, man, it's still Sacramento. Everybody's coming after them. But I do like what they've been doing. And De'Aaron Fox has got that mindset that he accepts the challenge, and he's bringing everybody else along with him. Isn't Buddy Hield over there lighting them up too?
Buddy Hield's in Indiana.
Oh, he went
is
to
not
Indy.
a fan of Sacramento.
That's a good point. That's a good point. When we come back, we're going to tell you what's on tap and let you know what you can look for tonight on the Horn. I want to thank my man Patrick Davis for doing a great job today, as always. And we're going to let you know what's on tap before we get out of here. Coming up next, we got Longhorn Weekly with Rodney Terry right here on the Horn.
I believe Brock Cunningham, the guest.
Brock Cunningham is the guest with Craig Way and Rodney Terry. Also, Longhorn Blitz podcast replay will be next. After that, it'll be Jeff Howe, Rob Babers, and Matt Butler. I will be out tomorrow. I'll be at the Dale Diamond working the Carbach Round Rock Classic. Great baseball is going to be there. But you can also listen to my man Craig Way tomorrow night as the Texas Longhorns take on the Indiana Hoosiers right there at the Dish. For my man Patrick, my man Chip Brown, who did a great job today. My vacationing brother, real brief vacation. He'll be back tomorrow. Rob Babers. It's your boy Hardball Harge. And just remember this, don't believe everything you see, because even salt looks like sugar. Peace.